From the broken ruins of Babylon, this is End of Days Radio. I am your host, Daniel, broadcasting all the way to you from that shimmering Emerald City right here in the heart of the Pacific Northwest. Today's date is March 7th, 2019. And this is the first ever End of Days Radio Superfan Roundtable show, where you, the listeners, have control of the show. I'm opening things up. I'm bored. I am bored to death of these interviews. I love the interviewers. I know I'm the greatest, best interviewer in the world, but let's face it, it's getting old. It's getting stale. It's just not doing it for me anymore. It's just not doing it for me anymore. I got to have fun with this. I got to have fun. I can't be another coast to coast clone. I don't want to be a clone of the Snorzilla, the Snorlax, the Snoremongerer. This is not paranormaldate.com. So, what do you say we get down to the itty gritty? I'm sure a lot of you have been wondering where I've been. Daniel, it's been a month since you did a show. What's wrong with you? You come in and you do like one show and then you disappear for a month. What's up with that? Guys, I am so sorry. I have not one excuse. I didn't even check to make sure that everything's working okay. Excuse. Yep, I just heard the word excuse. Looks like the stream's up. I don't have any good excuses for you, but the most I can say is I've been a little bit down. Hey, I've been a little bit down. I've been having some stuff going on in my personal life. Some real tragedy. Some terrible sorts of demonic attacks on my mind. Some fourth dimensional reptilian demonic attacks. Some traps that have been set for me by the Morningstar himself, Lucifer Morningstar. And I've been reeling, and I've been dilling, I've been squilling, I've been pilling, and scrambling, and rambling, and bambling. Just trying to keep my head above water. Trying not to get pulled down by these demons. These demons. Hold on, I need a sip of this Mountain Dew. This delicious dew that will restore my soul. Oh. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. Here in the wood. Alright, so this is the first ever roundtable show. So if you are ready... Oh, first of all, I apologize. I totally screwed up. I started way, way late. But let's see if we can't get some action started. If you were planning on being on the show tonight, feel free to call in at any time. You can come, you can go at any time. Things are a little bit sloppy right now, so I'm going to go ahead and let's see if I can't get the ball rolling on this. Skype is just the worst lately. It just, how do I even explain? It's just not like how it used to be. Let's see here. And let's see.
Hello.
How are you?
Hey, doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great. We are live.
Cool.
Would you like to introduce yourself, good sir?
Oh, yeah. So my name's Dan. I'm in Buffalo, New York. Yeah, well, you from all the way in Seattle, right?
Yeah, I'm Dan as well, Dan E.L., and I am calling from Seattle, Washington.
Oh, that's what's up. Nice. How's the weather out there?
It's shitty as usual. It's always rather shitty. We've had a bunch of snowstorms recently. Another reason why the show hasn't been on air, I've been snowed in. My power's been out. There's nothing I can do about that.
Oh, shit. Yeah. When the power's out, there's nothing you can do.
There's nothing. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah. It's been snowy as hell over here, too, man. It's crazy. It's like the wind just goes from one side into the other. But yeah, so that's what do you guys talk about? Is it just like a free for all, or does it go like step by step, or how does that work out?
Pretty much just doing a free for all tonight. Just anything anybody wants to add to the pot, add, subtract. I don't know how long the show's going to go. It's very experimental. It's very new. I'm just tired of interviewing the same old people. It just gets old. I just want to open things up and just talk about whatever everybody else wants to talk about out there. Why not just let it be a little bit free flowing, if even for one night? We'll see how it goes.
Word, sounds like a plan, man.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just the authors or the speakers or the people that are into having shows and things like that. There's a lot of people out there that are just, they're on Twitter or whatever. They don't have any platform, but they're interesting and they have something to say. So why not bring them forth?
Yeah, definitely. So, just out of curiosity, how many people are on this call?
Just us two right now. I have a lot of people planning to call, but it's just you and me kicking things off.
Sounds like a plan. Well, hey, have you? So I'm pretty sure you've looked into flat Earth, right?
Yes, very deeply, very deep. Well, not deeply compared to some of these people out here, but pretty deeply.
Okay, so have you read any good books on the subject?
Yeah, there is the Flat Earth book by Gregory Lessing Garrett, which is very good. It's called the Flat Earth Trilogy, Book of Secrets. That's the first one. So that would be the main one. I'm about halfway through. I apologize, Greg. I'm taking forever to finish your book, but it's pretty damn good, and it's the only one that I've read so far.
Nice. I'll have to look into that. What was the author's Greg? What's the last name?
Oh, Gregory Lessing Garrett.
Listen. All right. I'll look into that. I've never heard of that book before. Yeah, I've been reading Terra Firma lately. That's a really, really good one.
Oh, really? What's that all about?
It's written by David Wardlaw Scott, and he's a very analytical writer. So he approaches it very in depth, like he goes into detail about the curvature experiments and all this kind of stuff. And there's a lot of math in the book, so it takes a lot of time to read. That and Scientism Exposed is a really, really good one by Robbie Davidson. It goes over a lot of different avenues of like why this is happening instead of just about the what. 'Cause the why is very important too.
Is that a tapping coming from you, or is that somebody else on the line?
Me.
Oh, who's that?
Me typing.
Oh, okay, so we aren't alone. I do apologize. I added a bunch of people to the call when we started. Who else is there? Who's this?
Mad Warrior.
What's your name?
Mad Warrior.
Mad Warrior?
Mm-hmm.
Well, welcome, Mad Warrior, to the roundtable discussion. Very glad to have you here.
Thanks.
And Dan, feel free to continue what you were saying.
Oh yeah, so the book Scientism Exposed goes into what would we call scientism today. It's a very basic definition of the Big Bang, evolution, and heliocentrism combination. It's those three basically form the three pillars of the foundation of the lie of its in and of itself, because the globe is not, it doesn't stand by itself. It's more like one piece to the puzzle, and part of the other puzzle pieces include the Big Bang that started heliocentrism and the evolution that inherently goes along with all the random chaos. And it's crazy when you can take a step back and look at it all and see like it's all connected of what they want to come to, what the point is that they're trying to make is that we're dumb and insignificant and nothing matters. It's a very nihilistic agenda that I see playing out in the world today.
I'd have to agree with that wholeheartedly. It seems like the general message, what we're meant to kind of integrate and accept, is this idea that nothing really matters. It's all pointless. There's no reason to have any morals or ethics. We're all just pulp fiction. We're all just fodder. We're all just spinning around in this giant toilet called life.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's quite the opposite, man. It's just everything matters. Every single thing that you do matters. And it's crazy to think that how your life actually changes when you start to think about that. Like, every single thing you do matters. You stop listening to things that you shouldn't listen to, or taking the advice of people you don't need to take advice from, and then it goes even further into, like, you don't even want to buy the material goods that would bring your life value, because you already know your life has value.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It's sometimes we don't realize that our lives have value. Like, we feel kind of down and out. We feel like nobody likes us, or that we're ugly or overweight or stupid. And valuing yourself is really the paramount thing, because until you do that, you can't really accomplish anything. You can't really enjoy life. You can't really do anything until you kind of get over that hump, so to speak, and then you can kind of actually start living your life, and then you can even go backwards. Something can happen where you start to doubt yourself, or you lose confidence. It's always kind of a battle of keeping things in perspective.
100%. Perspective is totally key. Have you ever so what's your favorite YouTube channel that goes over flat earth content and whatnot? Do you have a favorite YouTube channel?
Oh, sure. I would have to go with Eric Dubé. He's been really somebody that has been a real inspiration and getting me into flat earth, and making me actually take it seriously.
Oh yeah, dude, Dubé's pretty on point. He's got a few crazy ideas, but I feel like he's pretty much there. His main points are good. That he's pushing the right agenda, I feel like, with the fact that we have an intelligent creator and we're designed, and then there's more to back up his stance instead of just it's a lie. Like, he goes into a lot of detail. But one of the things that I think is missing in the environment is a look at the southern astronomical observations, and a lot of people don't take those into account. You remember how Dubé said Polaris never moves?
Yes.
So the fact of the matter is Polaris does move. It just doesn't move every day. And there's this thing called the Great Year, which is like a 26,000-year cycle in the celestial pole circles above us. And over the course of this like 26,000-year period, the celestial equator also goes back and forth north to south. So what I've come to realize is that the main flat earth model is a little bit skewed. It has a northern perspective bias. And I'm sure you're familiar with the AE map, right?
What's that?
That's the azimuthal equidistant projection. It's like the main flat Earth map, like with the ice wall around it and stuff like that.
Oh, okay, cool.
It was
so is
part
that
of
the most accepted one? Like, is that the one that would be like the go-to if somebody was to ask me for a flat Earth map? Would that be the best one?
Yeah, so to some degree, that's the one that's being popularized. It's the Gleason map that I forget what his first name was, but Gleason was the guy that made the map I think maybe just a couple hundred years ago. But it's a northern perspective bias, so it just portrays the North Pole at the center and the South Pole as the outer ring, which is fine if you're just looking at the northern part of the Earth, but it distorts the southern part. So then there's another thing called the southern polar azimuthal equidistant projection, and a lot of people don't look at, and it puts the South Pole at the center and the North Pole around the edges. And a lot of people are not looking into that because they're just looking at one side of it. And when you put the two maps together, the North Polar and the South Polar, you get this picture of this two-poled
Hey,
flat Earth
Dan.
model.
Dan, can I just put you on pause for 1 second? Please don't lose your train of thought. We just had somebody else join the group chat. Hello, are you there?
Hey, it's Sherry.
Hey, Sherry, welcome to the first ever End of Days Radio Roundtable discussion.
Oh, yes, I'm so excited to be here. I miss y'all so much, but I didn't want to interrupt. Let him go ahead and continue. I actually have my own theory of our Earth. I'll tell it to him when he's done.
Please continue, Dan.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll keep it short and sweet. The basic idea is that we have two poles because north needs south, like up needs down, and we have a north pole and a south pole, and the sun moves in a circle around each pole, but 6 months at a time. So what's on the normal flat Earth model is the sun makes a circle and only one circle. And what's evident is when you take into account the southern astronomical observations that the stars make a circle around the southern part of the Earth as well. And the only way to reconcile that is that there's two poles and the stars are circling around each, and so does the sun, which also means the moon follows suit because it's the polar opposite. The moon spins 14 days around each pole, 14 days around the other pole. So it basically visits each pole once per month on a 28-day cycle. And I find that pretty interesting, that correlation. But it's basically a new way of looking at the flat Earth model because the north polar projection is a little bit off. It's not quite right. You know what I mean? It's just like a one-sided perspective.
Yeah, the most we can kind of do at the moment is guesstimate, because it's not like anybody's actually been in space looking down. I mean, theoretically, people have been up there, but it's questionable. All the different models and all the different maps we have are very questionable. Like, why is it that when we go from Seattle to New York or New York to Seattle, why does it take the same amount of time if we're flying into the Earth's curve? It just doesn't make sense.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a big one. Flights are something else. The flight paths definitely prove the Earth is flat. But what was your take on the model? I forget, what was your name?
Sherry.
Sherry.
Hey. Well, okay. So y'all might think this is dumb, but there's this channel on YouTube that I watch called Enter the Stars, and he put out this thing that really resonated with me, and it was like that the Earth is shaped like God's eye, and we live on the convex lens. And it's so weird because if you look at this is so bad because I'm a nurse and I'm supposed to know all this anatomy and physiology, but on the sides, like there's certain things on the Earth that look like the anatomy of the eye anyway, like certain mountain ranges or whatever. Yeah. And it's really cool. And it's just neat because I found there's a lot of stuff that goes along with the body and the anatomy and the Bible and stuff like that. That's cool, And then I don't know, but it's just really neat. I hope y'all look at it because I can't explain it good. I wanted to try to do a little show on it once, but I'm not good at organizing stuff,
Yeah. What's the YouTube channel name again?
It's called Enter the Stars, and if you type in Earth is God, just to put in Earth God's eye, but it's enter and it's 5. He spells stars 5T4RZ.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, just check it out.
I'm going to just pause you for 1 second, Sherry. Hold on to that thought. We had a new person enter the group chat. Hello.
What's going on, gang?
Oh, it's Todd.
Hey, how is everybody?
Hey, Todd.
Good.
We're here with Dan, calling from the East Coast. We got Sherry on here. We also got Mad Warrior on here. So we've got a total of, 5 people on the line tonight, and we're just kind of getting into the flat Earth a little bit. Sherry, go ahead and finish your thought.
Okay, oh man, I just had a thought and it went away. Hold on. Okay, so I just think that it should be looked into because, in the Bible, there's a Mandela effect where it used to say on the Lord's Prayer, on earth as it is in heaven, and now it says in earth as it is in heaven. And if we lived in God's eye, we would be in the earth. Yay.
Ah, I see. That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, and like this friend of mine, and he was kind of telling me, at first I was thinking all these changes were like you know, the Antichrist or something, but it's almost like revealing a lot of truth, some things.
Yeah, I think apocalypse means awakening, actually.
Right.
I think that's pretty cool how that it's like we are in the apocalypse in a sort of way.
Yeah, a lot of people will come at me and they'll be like, Daniel, you're always talking about end of days, doom and gloom. It's so depressing. But I just want everybody out there to know it's not like that. Really, the end of days is nothing but a new beginning. There is a beginning after the end, so to speak.
Once the world blows up, it'll be awesome. Yay!
Todd, you doing good?
I'm just curious. Yeah, I'm doing good. How's everybody?
Good.
Al's
Is
on
Al
the road.
calling in? Oh, okay.
Al's on the road, damn it. I'm like, you're not calling in? No. That means I got to call in and represent us both, yeah.
That's all right. Can represent.
He drives and switches places with his buddy.
Well,
And
Todd,
so
do you
this
believe
is
the
one-
Earth's flat?
I know they're hiding a bunch of stuff from us, a bunch of it. And I'm an artist, so I know what, if you go into art class, they'll show you how you can take a light and they have these solar system models where you can move them around these balls on a stand and it shows you where the shadow would fall. So that all proves that these objects are probably round. These objects we're looking at, the moon.
I saw an interesting video y'all should check out, and it's like if you type in Toy Story and moon landing, and it shows all these, back and forth, these hints that were in the movie Toy Story and all the stuff about The Shining and all that stuff, and it was Stanley Kubrick and all, him filming the moon landing, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
check that out.
That stuff with Stanley Kubrick's really weird. I've looked into that pretty deep. The last movie he made was Eyes Wide Shut, and they cut out about 45 minutes that he wanted to have in the movie, and then he died.
Yep.
Shortly thereafter.
You there still, Dan?
Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to add another person to the call. They just keep coming in faster than I can keep up. So if you hear some dialing, I do apologize. I know it's probably super annoying, but trying to give
no, it sounds fine.
Okay,
but
good.
Sherry, it's so good to hear from you, and are you doing good? Everything all right? Everything going all right?
Yeah, doing good. And me and Darby still hearing from Michael Jackson, so I'll
right
never forget.
Tell Darby I said hi.
I will.
And then Daniel, is your name Dan or Daniel?
There's Dan and a Daniel.
Yeah, I'm Dan.
Dan, how you doing?
Doing all right, man. I had a question about that you were saying about the solar system, where you were seeing all the the round things on the sticks.
No, in art class, yeah. In school, they've got those models where you can move the things around, hold a light.
Yeah, I was wondering if you ever looked into the Tychonic system, like Tycho Brahe's model of the solar system.
Guys, 1 second, please hold that thought. We do have one person that just joined. Hello, are you there?
Yeah, I'm totally here. I can hear you well.
And who's this?
This is Alexandros Filth.
Alexandros Filth, good to hear from you again.
Whoa.
Welcome to the End of Days Radio Roundtable Show. We got 6 or 7 people on here already. We are.
I kind of heard on the radio broadcast. I actually went to the website.
Excellent. And we're kind of just vamping back and forth. Todd, Dan, please continue your thoughts.
Oh yeah, so Todd, I was wondering have you ever looked into the Tychonic model of the solar system, Tycho Brahe's model?
Yeah, well, he said that actually the universe, the greatest possible flattery we can give God is to create a virtual universe, not unlike the one that we inhabit.
I can
There
see
you
that.
go.
Yeah, I was mentioning that because the way he models it is the sun is the center of the solar system, but that it's actually moving over the face of the Earth with the planets in tow, and as in to say, like the planets do orbit the sun, indeed, but it's the sun that moves over the Earth, and we can see all this happening from underneath it. And I think that's a
Correct.
pretty cool way of looking at it.
Yeah,
So
well,
we're
the
not
entire
gonna-
universe is actually dynamically moving. It's not just one single, iteration. We're spinning around our galaxy, and our galaxies themselves are moving, not unlike a kind of contained spaceship through the universe. I mean, the entire universe operates not unlike how if you were an artist and you had an easel and you knocked over the inkwell, the ink is going to keep spilling. Well, that's what's happening with space. Space is constantly flowing, and it's flowing from a high concentration to a low concentration and spreading out. And as it's spreading out, it's dragging all the rest of matter along with it as debris in the flow of the river.
Yeah.
That's kind of how they'll say that gravity works, like a big heavy object. Like in the current scientific model, basically they're saying the Earth is so big that it's pulling on things around it. All these large objects, they pull stuff around them. I'm not sure if I really buy into that model because we haven't really proven gravity, but that's kind of what we have to look at now, I guess you could say.
Newton said, I think that he said it best, that it's as if there is a force that is pushing us downwards, not pulling us towards the Earth. It's the reason why we just don't fly off the surface of the planet. And that makes sense if you think about it, because objects at the bottom of the ocean are under a tremendous amount of pressure because of the density of the water compounded, right, as the molecules get closer and closer together in places like the Marianas Trench. Well, how come it also isn't true, if you think about it, that air is also crushing down on us, right? We're sitting like SpongeBob at the bottom of an air ocean, and the air is what's pushing us down. It's not so much that the Earth is pulling us towards the center. This is a function of electromagnetism. Electromagnetism, because of its causal force, is fundamentally pulling, or rather pushing, the air down towards the center of the planet, and then keeps the air at a level like a glass that's full of water. You can see the bubble of water at the very, very tippy top. Well, the air inside of our atmosphere is not very unlike this behavior. It operates in the same kind of principle, and this is just a function of electromagnetism as we're seeing it. But, physicists don't like to explain gravity as a function of electromagnetism or as a coefficient of electromagnetism.
Exactly. That's why I think Coulomb's law describes it better than Newton. What did Coulomb say? That I looked it up because it's such an interesting definition. The magnitude of the electrostatic force of attraction or repulsion between 2-point charges is directly proportional to the product of the magnitudes of the charges and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. So it's like saying what Newton said, just more detailed.
Well, not just that, but if you think about the currents in the ocean and how there are places where different salinities of water will exchange with less salinity or more salinity. I think probably one of the more remarkable parts of that.
Right,
over.
Oh, is that better?
Is that better?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me try
switching my phone off because I think you're getting an echo because of the phone.
And we just had a new individual join the
All right,
line.
this should be a lot better.
Somebody just jumped off. And who are we speaking to now?
Let me get my...
And I might have to limit it to this number of people for now. It is getting a little hectic, so we'll probably have to keep it at about 6 or 7 at a time.
Okay.
Where's the Mad Warrior?
Mad
Yeah,
Warrior, are you still there?
Yeah, so imagine, like you were saying, like the
Hey, hold on a second before you go on with that, because that's incredible. And Andreas, that's incredible. Is the Mad Warrior here?
Sounds like Mad Warrior has gone silent.
She doesn't talk. She just listens.
All right, Dan, go
No.
ahead.
Not there? Okay, I was just checking. It's kind of interesting. I'm the bad warrior. I'm not here. Sorry, Alexander. Go on with that conversation you were just having.
Because whenever the fluid in our atmosphere is a gas, right? Because gas, like you were saying, gas and liquids are all on fluid dynamics. So the pressure system in the ocean is the same as the pressure system in our atmosphere because we're at the bottom of a gaseous ocean. And my idea is that space is another ocean as well. It's just of another type of fluid, maybe of a superfluid nature, because that has a zero viscosity property like a vacuum would. But a vacuum can't exist next to a pressurized system without a solid barrier. And I personally don't think we have a solid barrier anywhere. So the only way to counteract that is to say that it's just another permeable membrane above us, separating us from space, just like the dolphin can jump out of the ocean into the air. I think we can jump out of the air and into space in the same fashion.
Space dolphins.
Yeah, I love that. That's a movie. So I got to ask you, do you think the world's flat?
Yeah, because that's the only way it makes sense, because all fluids find their level. The liquid ocean finds its level. Our fluid atmosphere finds its level. You.
A level, just put a level out there. It levels out. Water levels out. It's not going in a circle.
Right. Everything's level. That's why I started saying Earth isn't flat, it's level, because level is what we can prove. We have mountains and valleys, but everything levels out. Always.
Yeah.
And this
I'm
is
not
something
trying
that
to
you're...
keep slinging the Bible, but it does say that God put an angel on all four corners of the earth. Now, how would you have a corner on a ball? Just saying.
Yeah.
How would you have a corner on a ball? Yeah, well...
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, this Darren Nesbitt is working on a model too, based off of that. What as he's called it, the square model, just because of the four corner thing. To me, I could see the four corners being just like a metaphor, but it could literally be a description to say that it doesn't curve, because nobody can prove that it does curve.
You mean like a metaphor for like north, west, east, south, or something?
Well, in a sense, like because the context of it was basically everything is so vast. Like I forget the exact context, but it's like he separated them from the four corners or spread them out to the four corners. It was like there's no end to it. So I think the plane that we live on may be infinite, and it may be the material plane of existence that exists above what I call the ethereal and what some people call the spiritual, because I don't think anything in the material happens unless it happens first in the spiritual, as if this is the effect and the cause is the spiritual or ethereal.
Is your first name Greg?
Dan. His name is Dan.
Dan.
Yeah.
Dan.
No, that's not Dan. That's the other one.
Yeah, it's definitely a stacked
deck.
That's
Alexandre. That's Alexandre.
We got Alexandros, Sherry, we got Dan, we got Todd, we got a couple other people tucked back there.
Alexandros is the one that was just talking.
Nah, that's me, Dan.
That's Dan.
That was Dan? Damn, Dan. It sounded like Alexandros for a minute. Oh, my God.
Well,
Dan,
hey, what's really neat about that?
Daniel's...
What's really neat about that is if you look at ancient Sumer and their whole thing about Anu and the Anunnaki and all that, well, Anu is he's supposed to be the sky. He's not necessarily supposed to be an entity or an alien or anything like that. He's just the sky.
Anunnaki?
I've often thought the Anunnaki could be a legitimate thing, and instead of extraterrestrials, they could just be our neighbors that we forgot about, because if Earth is the only terrestrial plane, then we don't have extraterrestrials. They're just our neighbors from across the way that we forgot about.
Well, I know I'm simple-minded, but I think that everybody, everything, every alien, and every angel is just an orb. Like we're just all orbs
We're just
at the
consciousness,
end of the
basically.
day. Yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
So when we go to sleep, we turn into a little ball of light that flies around the universe. And
Yeah, I was trying to get Cody to do that one time and let me see if I could film him, coming, because I can film orbs and stuff and get him to come over and film. We were
Totally.
going to do that experiment, but we never did it.
When you do
Totally.
DMT, that sounds about like what your experience actually. So yeah.
Really?
Float around.
Yeah, well, I know. I mean, actually, psilocybin is
When
I feel like you roll around in psilocybin, but
did you do DMT recently?
yeah, it was probably a few months ago. I made some.
A few months ago?
Yeah.
Damn.
Whoa. Damn, Daniel, where do you live? Dan, where do you live?
I'm in New York.
New York, okay. We're out west.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
California, maybe they're making that DMT, but
Was this pure?
Go on.
Was this pure DMT? Did you smoke it, or was it ayahuasca?
It was the DMT crystals, so it was the NN-DMT instead of the 5-MeO DMT that's in ayahuasca.
Damn, Daniel, indeed.
whoa, what'd you see? What did you see?
Well, what I realized is that everything is ultimately connected, and what I mean is I personally don't think there's an individual soul anymore, because I feel like we're all, what I was seeing was myself in another dimension, in a sort of hyper-dimensional mirror per se, and it was like I was conversing with myself, but it was a humanoid geometric faceless figure that I was being greeted by, and it was like it was myself, and I saw myself in it, and so many other crazy things happened that I realized that we're all just one ocean, and we're in
you saw beyond the veil.
Right, and when you come down, you see the curtains close. There's about 10 curtains that just close one after the other, and then you're back into this reality.
Totally.
It's really fascinating. I highly recommend it.
That's what I'm saying.
You highly recommend it. Right on. Can't wait till it becomes legal in the state by me.
No. Yeah, that's the funny thing. All the ingredients are legal. It's just after you make it, it's not. It's crazy.
And if you want to join the roundtable tonight, remember you can call in at 209-348-9810 or just add Ninja Shoe 777 on Skype. If you want to join the roundtable, once again, that's 209-348-9810 or just add Ninja Shoe 777 or End of Days Radio on Skype. Sorry, go ahead.
Hey, Dan, when you take it, how long does the trip last?
Well, it hits you in about 5 seconds, and then you're there, and then in the first 60 seconds, you're greeted by I don't even know what to call, if it's a them or it or a they, but there is an intelligence that you meet within the first 60 seconds, and then it portrays like this story that you have to observe and watch and learn something from, I feel like. And then after about 5-10 minutes, it all fades it all fades away after about 10 minutes.
10 minutes later, you come out and you're kind of yourself again.
Yeah, unlike LSD, where LSD changes your perception, whenever you blast off from DMT, you stay yourself, but you're where you are changes. It feels like your mind stays the same, but after about 10 minutes, you recognize that you're back here. And after 20 minutes, I was driving again, so it's really fast and really sharp. Sharp is the best way I can explain it.
Wow. Yeah, so that gets the message over fast.
Yeah.
Have you ever had like a bad experience with it, or they've all been positive?
Well, at that point, because I've done a few other types of psychedelics, I've found there's no bad trip. Actually, it's just a matter of perception. But bad experiences, honestly, is what
setting.
Yeah. If your set is wrong and your setting is wrong, something may go off. But as long as you get that in place, everything will you just enjoy the ride. There's nothing to be scared of, and as long as you know that you're diving into your own mind, that's the only thing that matters. As long as you're okay with that.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, baby.
I used to be really into psychedelics. Like, I used to trip all the time, but I've recently it's just too much for me now. When I go into that space and reality just starts crumbling around me, I just kind of freak out. I feel like I've gone far enough, and I just don't need to do that anymore.
Right on, Daniel. Maybe you shouldn't do it. It's only 10 minutes long, so go for it, Daniel.
Oh yeah, it's definitely the best roller coaster ride ever. If you like LSD, it's the LSD 10-hour experience condensed into 10 minutes, and it's a download that takes 2 weeks to digest. I didn't even realize what was going on until like 2 weeks later.
Get a notebook. Make sure you get a notebook and fill it out.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do that next time.
Write all that down. Wow.
That's another thing I've heard. A lot of people have told me that when they have these psychedelic experiences, they don't really learn and they don't really integrate it until like the following weeks. It all just kind of unravels for them.
Synchronicities, man, they'll drive you crazy.
I think most people don't realize what it is they're seeing when they do them. And even if they do get the message like Dan was talking about, that we're all connected, because I've seen that message, Dan, without your DMT.
Right.
I've had that experience myself.
Same.
That realization that we're all connected, and you laugh as soon as you get that realization. You laugh.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember laughing my ass off, because whatever fear or anxiety you had in the outside world, it's ridiculous once you have that realization.
Yeah.
And Daniel, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Todd.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I don't want to be long-winded. I was just talking about, that realization you were talking about there, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say really quick that what Daniel had just said about a couple weeks, like to let stuff process or whatever. It's funny because I haven't really did any drugs, because I went from like just say no high school student to being a nurse, and when they drug test you and everything. So I haven't even ever smoked marijuana, and I'm like going to be 50. So with that said, though, I had I don't know if y'all have heard of like QHHT or BQH, like hypnosis, but I've had that done like 3 or 4 times and had a lot of really weird experiences, really neat ones that, I saw a bunch of stuff like that and everything. And it takes a couple weeks for it to all like integrate or something. It's kind of sounded like what you were saying, Daniel.
It's because of your mind, typically the mind is where the thoughts originate from. So where would you stand to look back at the origin of your thoughts? And it's a really interesting idea, but when it actually occurs, it's like this mirror, because really seeing is nothing other than yourself seeing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And Sherry, you live where?
Louisiana.
Louisiana. You're a nurse, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're a nurse.
Yeah. Yes.
I love that you love your soul, Sherry, but people in New York and people that are doing the DMT, they're riding a different wave than people in Louisiana. A nurse in Louisiana,
No, I actually would probably do it. I would try it though if it was, like legal.
If it was available, yeah.
Yeah, I would try it, and I would do like peyote or something too, probably.
I just don't want to see any aliens. I don't want to see any aliens. I hate aliens.
They don't have all those crazy things like New York.
Nope. They don't have nothing like that. Go ahead, Dan.
I'd say you do have a somewhat of a DMT experience every time you dream, so they say. I think that's pretty cool.
You can always go with Celine Capensis. Celine capensis basically puts you into the White Plains dream state. That's the Xhosa tribe in Africa. It's
I'm
the
sorry,
sacred
what was
dream
that?
herb of the Xhosa tribe.
Is that a drug?
Oh wow, I want to look that up. What do I
Selene
look up?
allows mechanical lucid dreaming. No, it's a root. It's called the African dream root, Selene capensis, Silene, capensis, Capensis, I believe.
Can you get that at the health
I'm gonna
food
get
Get
it.
it over the counter. You manufacture it into a tea. You have to eat the froth of the tea, and so that's.
Can I
that's
get it
the,
at
that's the
GNC?
stuff. What's
I
that?
want to buy that tea.
I'm just kidding. I asked if I could get it at GNC.
No. You'd have to order it on Amazon. There's a couple of places online you can get it, but it's perfectly legal.
How do you spell it
And
again?
if you're going to go that route, you might as well just mix in some Blue Lotus.
Okay. Hey, I've
do you-
tried stuff like that. I bought something recently called like Babanzo or something like that. You might, I don't know. It was like some kind of drops, but it didn't really do anything.
I bought some natural mushrooms from my local health food store today in capsules that claim to help your brain work better.
You're talking about Lion's Mane?
Yep, lion's mane.
Yeah, it's fantastic stuff.
I thought Daniel's show's coming on tonight. He's inviting everyone. I better get some of this. I've never tried it before. I'm on it tonight.
I need some of that because all this pot is making me dumber and dumber.
It's totally legal. I bought it at the nutrition store. It hasn't kicked in yet, though. Maybe after
Oh well, here's the thing with any kind of stack. If you're going to take it, you have to drink a lot of water, and then of course you need
Beer doesn't work. Beer doesn't work.
Well, it's just like if you end up, because there's a lot of people that do. If you end up smoking weed and then it makes you really inspired, you know what I mean? You have to use. A lot of people will smoke and then they waste it. They don't do anything functional with it. It's the same thing with lion's mane. You have to find something that it kind of enhances a little bit, and then you follow through and you actually use it to do whatever its functional purpose was meant to do.
Yeah, which is this show tonight. That's why I'm calling in. On lion's mane.
It's like that movie Limitless.
In the health food store.
That movie Limitless, where they develop that pill and that guy starts taking it and he gets his girlfriend back. He becomes rich off the stock
NZT,
market.
you're talking about Limitless. Yeah.
I have a question
Well,
about
I guess DMT is pretty close to that limitless drug because what it does is it kind of resets things and it gives you a different perspective. So, from that point forward, what are you really up to? What are you really doing?
Sounds like a commercial for DMT. I can't wait till it comes to
Well,
my
I'm going to be honest with you. These psychedelics, they can be really dangerous too because a lot of people are throwing this stuff around like it's some kind of toy, and it's totally not. It can be extremely dangerous because it can permanently change and alter your brain chemistry and your neurochemistry. It changes your thought patterns permanently. Yeah, exactly. And
if you're stupid, you might not survive. Yeah.
We're manipulating people on drugs like this, mescaline, LSD. The counterculture movement completely created a paradigm shift in the United States and the world, and that was all fueled by LSD and some of these other psychedelic drugs.
That the CIA was completely behind.
Well, that was all part of the MK Ultra program that was just mind experimentation. They were trying to figure out how to control mass amounts of people and get them to do certain things in a certain way, and it worked.
Exactly.
I mean, at this point now, what we're seeing is even now, as we're talking, okay, the government the individuals in government has engineered things in such a perfect way that it allows them to, basically we're in a position where we are vulnerable to everything that they want to happen. If we have an action, if we start a movement, they've already anticipated that we're going to have a movement because of everything that they've done. They're not stupid. They know that we're going to react to their stimuli. Yeah. And so what we have to do is have to be really careful as we tread forward. If we're going to start a revolution, it cannot ever be allowed to play into their hands so they can declare martial law. But unfortunately, unless we can get the word out fast enough, there will be a Leroy Jenkins type character or group of individuals that will inevitably start violent infighting, and then they're going to declare martial law, and then of course the cabal starts to win. So that's
You
like
think-
one of the biggest things, one of the biggest threats against public security now is that we're in this situation where it's like the cabal's basically painted us all into a corner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we want to avoid like as many bad probable outcomes as possible, because all the stuff in Revelation, it's just warnings about like one scroll or one seal represents a group of bad probable outcomes. Any number of different bad things can happen, from the invention of like virtual reality or robotization or cryptocurrency being introduced at the global level, you know, creating one world currency. You know, one world government can actually go really, really wrong as well, or it can go really, really well. And so like it's about education and educating the public about exactly what is a breakaway society and why is it that the cabal does not ever want us to realize that a breakaway society is not only possible, but we can actually be in control, you know, instead our own autonomy, you know, as a human race, as opposed to there being like a global alliance that's in control of not only everything on Earth, but everything that's leaving Earth.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Couldn't
I've
put it
heard
better
many
myself,
times
yeah.
that the psychedelic movement was all the Illuminati, it was all intelligence agencies and stuff like that. It does make sense, but I just have to wonder, because these substances are so chaotic, like what kind of gamble would that be for them? Could they really throw this stuff out there and expect it to give them the results
just as many people that are taking this and having like enlightened revolutions, there are probably just as many that like have an enlightened revolution and go back to the same old way of life they were living before. Nothing changes, you know, like they go back to their 9 to 5. They want to be like pretend like none of this is really happening. You know what I mean?
What it is uneducated individuals that don't realize what is occurring to them. The people that are putting out the drugs, trying to, you know, produce the mind control.
Like I said, that's why this stuff is so dangerous.
They know what's going on. They know what's going on, but your average idiot that's never been exposed to it before would have no idea of the incredible thing that just happened to him, because he can't put it into a
perspective, a frame of reference.
He can't realize what just happened to him. So they rely on that stupidity, stupid people. But we got some smart people on here. Is that Alexandros?
That'd be me. Yeah, I'm Alexandros. I'm a physicist and a cyberneticist and artificial intelligence.
I remember you, dude. You're on one of Daniel's best shows, the Flat Earth Heavy Metal Show.
I remember the show. Yeah, that's why I wanted to hop back on and talk with you guys again. It's going to be great.
You're the musician that's just incredible. Yeah.
I dabble in music, but I don't do it full time. Nowhere near.
Oh, me neither. But just appreciation for music. I remember your show was pretty cool.
Alexandros, what do you think about Amanita muscaria? Have you ever had any experience with those types of mushrooms by chance?
You know, I've had a couple. I think I've had a couple of penis envy. I've had, the wizard caps, I think, is one of the nicknames for them. But I haven't had like a takeoff experience, because my threshold on what I constitute as being the fabric of reality is very, very high. It's very difficult for my mind to let go of what objective reality is. So my dosage is very, very different from what most people's dosages are. So like, you know, in order to get like a decent LSD experience, you know, I took 7 hits that were double dipped of pure LSD.
God.
Yeah, so most people wouldn't even think about ever taking that much, but for me, that's what it took. And then, you know, it was like, okay, all right, I understand what people are talking about with this experience now. It makes sense. And of course, shrooms is probably going to be the same thing. A hero dose for me is going to be very different than most other people. So I'm probably going to have to take a quarter to a half an ounce.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I remember McKenna talking about 5 dry grams being the perfect solution. But I was wondering about the Amanita muscaria, because that's like the Christmas mushroom. I've never been able to find one to take or whatnot. But I was just wondering if, because I heard it's so much different than psilocybin.
I got some off a website a long, long time ago. And first off, it tasted like snot mixed with feet, and it did nothing at all.
How you know what snot tastes like, Daniel?
A lifetime of picking my nose and eating it, Sherry.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep up with the physicists here. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, really.
I'd be interested to try some Amanita muscaria. You know, it seems plausible to me that people like Moses, a.k.a. Akhenaten, might have gotten his hands on some of that stuff. I mean, the Egyptians were definitely dabbling in psychedelic stuff. One of their favorite things was Blue Lotus, which is well known as a psychoactive substance. Stuff like that was even shared by.
Health food store?
No, you get it on Amazon.
No. Stuff like that was even used by, widely used by our good friend King Solomon, and other mystics of that time.
Wow, that's so cool.
Well, pharmakia, that goes way back.
And some of this stuff is forced on us. Like fluoride, for example, is put in our water, and we don't have any say in it at all.
Well, that's changing now. All across the nation now, people have been speaking out. And honestly, that's one of the best things that we can do is talk in places like this and get more people informed and involved, and go ahead and spread the word so that people can talk to their municipalities, talk to their water districts and say, look, we're not okay we don't want this poison in our bodies.
Yeah, I've even gone so far as to get a shower filter so my shower water is good.
I mean, in some places of the world, they've been talking about putting lithium directly in the water, not just something as simple as fluoride. They want to put a very, very heavy metal, this stuff is it has a high level of risk factors that are involved with brain damage and permanent brain chemistry modification. It's crazy what some of these organizations are trying to do to the public.
There's been places where they have either sprayed or they've talked about spraying chemicals so that they can calm everybody down.
Oh, I'm sure there's
lots
of stuff like that going on.
This new treatment that I was just reading about, and they take mescaline, and it's a nasal spray, and it's for depression. And they're really looking at human trials with EPA, and they're really looking to turn this into a kind of drug that they can widely distribute.
In Salt Lake City in the 90s, there was a test that I read about in our local newspaper where they sprayed cold viruses from the sky to see what would happen with the cold pill cells at the supermarket.
I heard they did that on the lunar eclipse line, this last one that we had.
No, they admitted that they sprayed the sky with cold virus to see how many people would come in and buy cold tablets.
Yeah.
And they can just do stuff like
one
this
of
and not
the
be held
most heinous things that's
for it.
going on right now is that, generally speaking, we have a very high level of cognitive dissonance in the population, and that's not an accident. That's 100% on purpose. They need us to be so afraid to believe what's going on around them that they will quite literally believe lies over the truth because it's more convenient for them. And that's where the general public is right now. It's an extremely dangerous situation because armed with the truth, and here's the problem. You can't trust anything that the government says anymore. That's literally one of the worst situations you can possibly ever find yourself in, is to have a nation this large with this much population and have cognitive dissonance at an all-time high to a point where even real news is not even being believed by the general public. This is exactly the situation they need us to be in order for their disclosure movement to really pull off so that they can get the focus and the attention of the global populace on whatever bandwagon idea they've got coming next.
But Alexander, look at this. Look at all their failed wars everywhere.
Oh, I'm well aware. I was in the United States Marine Corps.
Alexander, I got a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Todd.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'll finish with their next campaign. If they think they're going to make this place, if they think they're going to, do a number on this place, look at all their failed wars. They're not. What they're running into, Alexander, is the snafu principle.
Yeah, well, the answers, are in the people themselves because we have the power. And so unless we actually gather together and we start doing something, they're going to get away with everything that they've got planned. And we just have to do it in a way that they're not going to expect because they have a very high level of hubris. They don't expect us to do something that is passive resistance. They don't expect us to throw a party. There are certain things they're never going to expect us to do, and that's what we need to focus on doing. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running for president.
Oh, I like your thinking. I might vote for you.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I got a question. Yeah. I want to know if what you and Dan's take is on the Mandela effect.
Oh.
Yeah, okay, so it's really interesting. I actually have a really good explanation for this.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, so let's say that you take 1,000 people, like a town of 1,000 people, and 10 of them are atheists. Okay, they choose not to believe in God. But in this town of 1,000 people, okay, all of them go to church, even the atheists, right? So everybody in the town, whether or not they've read the Bible or not, is intrinsically affected by the words and the tone, the theme, the ideas, the stories, the culture of the Bible itself. Now, we're not in a village of 1,000 people anymore. Now we're going to go out to the world. 90% of the world's population, whether they are Christian or not, has in the back of their mind, in their subconscious, the words of the Bible sort of playing along almost like this invisible poem that they can't themselves understand or read or discern. That's the situation that we're at. The Bible, all the way from the Hebrew text to the Greek text, all the way to the English text, the New King James Version, is nothing more than a human basic programming manual system. And human beings are the computers. So this system has overall programmed a lot of us. And it's not just the Bible, okay? It's other certain social information, right? And so whenever you want to shove more information in, certain things have to leave or they have to go in the background. They have to sit in a dusty closet. So that's how I explain the Mandela effect, is because that knowledge was at one time common, but there's like a little shift when it sat in the cobwebs for too long, and some people remember it differently than other people. And this also has to do with the multiverse principle
to the
of spiritualism.
Bernstein Bears book?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I remember.
Store the
Great
other
minds
day.
think alike, Todd.
The book says Bernsteins, and I specifically remember it being Bernstein.
That makes two of us, buddy.
Same here.
I'm
Me
looking
too.
at this book going, it's not Bernstein. It never was when I was a kid. It's Bernstein. So
I
looked at it
specifically
again, I'm like,
remember
am I
comparing
seeing
them to
things?
Germans when I was a kid. I specifically remember that.
Yeah, it's not Stain. That's like an American spelling of.
You know what I think it could be is, whenever you put dye in a fluid and you can see the current flow, imagine if you put some information in the internet and see how it flows. I think they may be testing the way information flows in the internet.
Go. It's all part of that cognitive dissonance thing, okay? They're
Yeah,
trying
but
to
it's
make
physical
lives
reality,
like
man. It shows up in the physical reality, though.
I'm looking for books that say Bernstein because I'm convinced that the old ones.
Have you guys ever heard of the term gaslighting?
I
It's
have
a psychological, it's also a legal term. Have you ever heard of the term gaslighting?
Yes, I
Yep.
have.
Yes.
I know a lot about all
So
that
the
stuff.
idea is with this Mandela effect thing is they want to make, just like the flat earth, because it's working. They want to create a situation where there's these people that believe it, and then there's a whole other group of people. They want to divide it's just another method of them to be able to divide the populace. And really that's all this is they can actually control whether or not you believe something is being true. True Stream Media on YouTube has a really good series where they talk about some of these concepts.
Oh, yeah. Well, I always thought that the flat, round Earth was a divide and conquer thing, and that's why I thought that it probably wasn't either one, and that, that's how I came up with my little God's eye theory. But, I mean, with the Mandela
you've
effect,
seen it too. Wait, are you telling me you've seen God's eye too?
Yes.
So how many
Me
people
too.
here in this broadcast have seen it?
I've seen it.
Not sure what I would be looking for. I'm a little confused on that one.
You haven't heard,
It's hard to explain.
Yeah. You would be overpowered with emotion. You would probably have openly wept. It's like overpowered. Like it's as if you see
It's
you
so
get a
bright.
glimpse of
It's
the
so
universe.
bright you can't look directly at it. You have to.
Yeah, your eyes are closed. They're just like it's hard to describe. It's an incredible
resonance.
You're seeing God through a pinhole.
in a way.
The
Yeah.
only way you can look at it. Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh, yeah.
That's when I realized it was real. When I said, because you could see your whole life pass before you like a film, and
It
it's
was
a little
very
point
unusual.
of light. Yeah.
I had gotten home. I was walking my dog. I was completely sober. I hadn't had any drugs or anything in my system. I was outdoors. It was the country, and then it just like hit me like a ton of bricks. And we're talking about, like, I'm a 9-year Marine veteran, and all of a sudden I just started openly weeping. My eyes are just so full of water I can't see even if I want to open them up. They just closed. I've got my hands over my eyes, and it's just so overpowering, like this incredible overpowering experience that's both like spiritual, emotional, and psychological all at once. It just completely rocks your world. It knocks your socks off. And it was as if I just got flooded with tons and tons and tons of information all at once. And I knew that I had a choice to make, and I didn't know what I was experiencing or how I could explain this to other people. But I think one of the things that all of us have in common is that it's as if we've seen the eye of God itself. And that's really strange to try to describe, but I try to describe it as a planet that has like a ring around it almost. And it looks very similar to like a human eye.
Right. I like the way McKenna describes it too. I think he said the felt presence of immediate experience. And that's a great way to sum it up right there. You're experiencing that which is also experiencing itself in you by proxy.
Mm-hmm. And also there's a universe outside of us and a universe inside of us. And it's almost a realization of the universe inside of us.
That's why I love etymology, because a lot of words say it all. You know what I mean?
I'm fascinated with etymology too, but in a different respect. Our language, like I said, we've been programmed with it. So in a lot of ways, we can't describe the true nature of the universe because we've been over-programmed with limiting syntax. Correct. Absolutely right.
And control systems and...
Correct. That's exactly what our language is. It's a manner of control system.
Well, and catchphrases and stuff like that are like made to like make us claim to screw ourselves. You know what I mean? Just like saying there's no such thing as coincidences. No, I mean like making you say there's no such thing as coincidences. You know, when synchronicities and things like that are positive, and then you're sitting there claiming that they don't exist.
It affects your belief, is what you mean.
There's too much false information.
Not really. I mean, it's like magic almost, because you're speaking it. Just
correct. That's abracadabra. As I speak, I create.
Hearing things multiple times, like if I was to say something 3 times, it's going to have a much more dramatic effect than if I just said it once, because it's going to get kind of motor set into your brain.
Right. Has anybody looked into gematria?
Of human communication, because we can. This conversation here, it could have a negative effect on someone's life. They could totally freak out because they're hearing this. And that's exactly one of the things that I want to be an advocate for, especially running for president.
I hope they do, yeah.
You can't just go through the streets like Paul Revere ringing a bell and saying, hey, guys, guess what? Santa Claus isn't real. That's a really bad idea. You can't just yank someone's foundational rug out from under their proverbial feet and then suddenly leave them on their butt. If you do that with hundreds of thousands or millions of people, like there will be civil war in the streets. And that's how I know that the cabal is trying to engineer this so that there will be a societal collapse.
I actually made a video about really seeing Santa Claus. Just telling y'all. Anyway, go ahead.
So Alexander, you're a veteran?
Yeah, United States Marine Corps. That's correct.
Where did you serve, sir?
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan. How was it?
It was eye-opening. I understand why Alexander the Great gave up when he got to Afghanistan. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, we've been there forever, 20 years now. And
honestly,
claim victory.
It's not about claiming victory at this point. What they're trying to do is they're trying to create a situation that makes it very, very difficult for terrorist organizations to operate, so that the government and the centralized banking system that we've instituted in their country can finally take hold, and it will allow the freeing of resources in that nation to other countries like us, for example.
Right. So our puppet government that we set up can finally function.
If you read Smedley D. Butler's book, War is a Racket, Smedley D. Butler was also a Marine.
I have that book.
Yep, and you can also read the Confessions of an Economic Hitman. They go into a lot of very specific details about how we go in and use centralized banking systems to debt-based monetization, basically, that's backed up by the dollar, to control economies, global economies, and entire nations, in fact.
Yeah, and we do it for the one world government. It doesn't even really help the United States. It helps interest in the United States, but kind of works for a global elite.
Plus, all of that anti-terrorist stuff, I mean, obviously, with 9/11 and the whole Homeland Security stuff that was started up, it's all being used to enslave us and not just stop genuine terrorists, but to spy on every aspect of our lives.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't say this, but Alexander, have you ever heard, like, with the etymology of the word, like, soldiers, like soul dyers, and how, like, Michael Tessarion talks about how, like, the ley lines of the earth will be, like, in a pentagram area, like, right where they would have, like, you know, war where all kind of people are dying and stuff like that? Or do you think
DC's schematic. If you ever get a real good look, you should check it out. DC is very fascinating the way that they have it set up. I mean, one of the largest buildings in the world, the Pentagon, is located in Washington, D.C., and that's your pentagram right there. All the lines and everything line up in D.C., and that's the head of where all the war and everything is that's going on in the world. Am I right?
Right. So, they have all the obelisks everywhere, and you know, you can even see like the chakra system and stuff in these cities when they
it's
the way
in
it's laid
plain
out.
sight.
Statue of Albert Pike
in plain sight.
Bunch of secret societies of the global elite running everybody and showing you.
I mean, that's what Kennedy tried to warn us about before they had him murdered. You know, he had that big speech about secret societies and how it was repugnant to a free thinking society.
Yeah.
And doesn't DC work with the Vatican and London for the Trilateral Commission too?
That's all run through the IMF. They control literally everything through our banking. So the IMF basically maintains balance with the dollar as the world reserve currency. And then the Federal Reserve is in charge of the perfectly legal gambling that occurs over our bonds market, which basically makes our securities and our commodities.
Gotcha.
And gets the rich people richer.
Correct. Well, the system was designed to do that. Now, the truth is that all citizens of America can actually use that system. But, unless you have a couple $1 million sitting around, you're not going to be able to make any significant headway. You know, it's not going to be worth your time or your effort to be able to invest in one of these things.
Yeah, how is that fair? Because if I do have $2 million in the bank, I can pretty much just live off the interest. But the problem is most of us never have more than 20 grand saved up in the bank at any given time.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm working on is getting people together, and then I'm going to be empowering them by teaching them finances and exactly how this system works, because I'm totally a hacker. And if you can get away with not paying the tax man, I say let's do it. The sooner we put a chokehold on these corporations and we start robbing the tax revenue that would normally come from the regular citizenry, the government's going to have to find a softer target to go after. They're not going to come after the civilians that are contributing to the system. They're going to go after these corporations that are going to start failing. And the beauty of this system is that it allows the citizens all of the power. So if we want to boycott Walmart, we can literally bankrupt Walmart on the international exchange, and we can bet against it, making millions and millions of dollars for ourselves, and even start a civilian citizen PAC that would allow us to gamble on these bond markets and even beat companies like Kyocera, or beat large organizations like China, for example, at the bond market. Projections market, basically, is America. See, China gets to bet against us. These other organizations get to bet against us. And because they have such large financial organizations, they can literally cause America to do poorly on the financial markets, which means our bonds are worth less, but they get to make more money because they bet against us. That's how the bond market works. So what I'm working on is trying to get people empowered and get people together and educated so that we can start fighting this game and get less and less more and more out of debt, basically, so that we can get away from the Federal Reserve System, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take every man, woman, and child in America working together, and we can get rid of the Federal Reserve debt and then close down the IMF once and for all.
So, Daniel, how much money do you have you're ready to invest?
You're asking how much money I have in the bank?
that you're ready to
That's a little
invest.
personal there, buddy. I've got about $10.
That you're ready to invest.
Okay, let me put this down. Okay, so let's say let's say there are roughly what do you say? There's about 50 million people in the United States, anywhere from 50 to 150 million people in the United States.
There's 300 million.
There's 300 million. Okay, there you go. So I was like halfway there. All right, so let's say each person gives 50 cents, right? So we got $150 million. Now, that doesn't sound like a whole lot of money, okay? But if you take $150 million, right, and you go on that international bond market, you can start playing with Forex, okay, in $150 million amounts. One single trade can make you $25 million, right? And since America isn't going to spend that money, we can roll it over, and that's called compound interest, right? So the next year we roll it over, right? We're making our interest on that $150 million plus the $70 million we made plus, right, the interest from that $150 plus the $70 million, and it'll roll over again, right? That's how compound interest works. Now, Einstein said something really amazing, okay, and this is only with 50 cent contribution from each American in the United States. Einstein said that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Now, if we were clever monkeys, okay, and we started working together, we could
against them.
Beat the Federal Reserve. We could beat them at their own game, okay, and literally eat up all of the interest and terrify every banker on the planet.
Or we could just all forget about money and just raise our consciousness.
Well, no, but I've got enough.
The problem is that we've got a lot of sheep. We've got a lot of people that don't understand that Santa Claus isn't real. And so trying to get them on the bandwagon to agree with that is not going to be easy. And it's lifestyle. You know, they have the right to be free. Some people want to use cash. Some people want to use money. There's nothing wrong with money inherently, but there is something wrong with having usury tied to the monetary system, which, you know, Thomas Jefferson tried to warn us about on the steps of the Continental Congress when he addressed them in 1775.
That all goes back to the housing market, because if you want to buy a house, a single person cannot buy a house. You pretty much have to be married to even be able to dream of paying a mortgage.
And I've come up with a solution for that as well. I'm actually working that solution here in my city.
Before you get off that note about, you know, using the market, you know, using their system to get up on them. A gambler out in Wendover, that's Nevada, showed me a trick on the roulette table. Have you ever played roulette?
Yeah. Well, if you play the odds correctly and you come in with enough money, you'll win more money than you ever put down every single time.
But the guy showed me a trick. He's like, you can bet on 4 numbers that are divided into 32. There's 4 numbers into 32 slots.
Yep.
Put 7 chips on the 8 slots, and you'll get a chip every time. So you got to just.
But your amounts have to be over 10 grand each in order for it to really be profitable.
No, but I'm saying it was a trick he showed me that if you sit there long enough, you win because you're betting 7 of the 8. You get paid 8. You bet 7.
Yep.
It's a similar thing to what you were saying. I just thought I'd let everybody know that trick some gamblers showed me a long time ago.
Right. Well, I mean, think about the lotto. Think about the public lotto, okay? How much money does the public contribute to the public lotto, and how much money do the public actually draw away from that? It's a huge scam, you know? The government is in on it, and the company that's running the lotto is in on it, and they're all making money. You know, when if we were smart, we would just stop paying taxes. We would literally boycott the tax system and stop paying taxes for 1 year. And before you know it, the entire government would be at its knees begging American citizens to pay taxes.
Right.
Because they can't come and arrest us all.
Yeah. If truck drivers stopped their trucks one day all in unison.
That's a plan, buddy. I'm actually working on that.
Yeah, I'm with you, my man. I got a truck driver friend. His name's Al.
Yeah, it's just a matter of coordinating them and then running a single United States strike. 124-hour strike will cost these corporations so much. They will do whatever the citizens ask, and that's the goal, is to put the power back in citizens' hands and take it away from these corporations who think they're running everything. And once that occurs, once that occurs, we just have to keep that momentum going. You know, which is why, like, part of my plan is, while I want to focus on financial and education reform, in order to do that and really hunker down and fix some real serious problems in this nation and the world, we need to close our borders for 4 years. We need to heal from war, okay? We need to stop worrying about what these corporations are threatening us with these organizations are threatening us with, and we need to focus on how we can bolster up our own economy and become strong again. And America has the ability to do it. It's just that we're not. You know, we have so many people that are idle and not employed, and they want to be employed. So, you know, it's just, like I said, gathering people and collaborating them, and I have a plan to do that.
Well, I like that.
I have a feeling that if we take away welfare and replace it with a universal basic income, that it would incentivize working. Like if you got,
I disagree. I disagree, and I'll tell you why. It has to be instituted with a kind of program like a game. It has to be gamified. Because if you don't do that, because you'll have a bunch of people that'll just literally drink themselves to death. You know what I mean?
That would be me.
And they'll take that $1,000 a month and they'll drink themselves to death, or they'll inject it in heroin and they'll take a hit and then that's it. And that's a really bad way to do it. So you need an incentive program that is designed to be intuitive for the people that actually makes sense. So they need to be able to see how much. Okay, so if I'm getting $1,000 a month, the app that they use to actually use their account and everything, you know, because they have to register. It's a civil service program. Mm-hmm. Hey, it says here, if I do these tasks, that I can actually pay back part of that $1,000 that I've borrowed from the U.S. tax system. Because not only do we have to pay for it, but we need people to be responsible with that money. And how can we make them responsible with that money? We can show them where that money is coming from and how it's detrimenting their local community and their local economy, their local government, and where that $1,000 is coming from, right? That's the important thing. Just like with taxation with representation, you have to have a divvying out of that taxation with representation to inform the populace so that they can make healthy, responsible decisions.
Right. If they see where it's coming from, they'll put it in a good spot.
Correct. Because if they know it's hurting their neighbors and it's affecting their local community, then they're less likely to do foolish things.
True. Yeah, I was thinking more like an incentive program where if you have, let's say, a job and 2 kids, you'll be able to get X amount of dollars. And if you have no job and 2 kids, then you can't get anything. Like, say, you have to contribute to get
that's what I'm saying, like a civil service program. You need to donate your time to a school or an organization or a nonprofit. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And it has to be accounted for. Yeah. And so that requires an app. It requires a program, you know, a government subsidized system. And so that's one of my goals, is to create this government subsidized system. And instead of trying to subsidize something like healthcare, okay, well, there's no need to do that. What we need to do is we need to subsidize vacation, right? And instead of saying, okay, well, we need a federal minimum wage of $15 an hour. No, screw that. We need a federal minimum wage of 30 days of paid vacation a year, regardless of whether you have a job or not. So a government subsidized travel and, what do you call that? Tourism industry, okay? Basically, what it allows us to do is have much better control over our borders so that our citizens have more freedom, but non-citizens are much more closely guarded so that we can make sure, like if they're trying to smuggle shit in and out of the country, we can catch them and then we can get our money.
Right. Makes
or
sense.
People looking to break the rules or use the system makes it very, very difficult for them to do so. And that includes corporations and companies. So by creating this subsidized travel system, you can lock down the entire nation's borders and basically make it next to impossible for corporations and companies to cheat, because they're going to have to run all of their numbers through this vacation program system that's government subsidized. It's a simple solution,
back to
and
the
it basically gives everybody across the board a really great vacation package so that we're not working ourselves to death, because we need a fucking break.
Yeah, I mean, the way it is in this country, or really anywhere out there, you got somebody that's like working on a landscape crew. They're making $10 an hour and working their butt off, going home sore with a broken back. And then you got a guy across town. He just owns a bunch of shit. He owns a bunch of real estate. He does nothing at all day long except sit on his ass and collect rent. There's no way that that's fair in anybody's opinion.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the issue, is because the citizens don't actually have a voice to talk to these individuals or boycott their services. So let's say, for example, we have a town hall meeting, right, and we set up this program, And the citizens are like, hey, we're sick of paying, this for property taxes and rent, like in San Francisco or like in Silicon Valley, where the average cost of rent is like $4,000 or $5,000 for a single bedroom apartment a month. Who the hell
Alexander,
a month? Yeah, nobody can.
Nobody can.
It's just not
Alexander,
possible. It doesn't make sense. So what happens is the citizens get together, okay, and they're like, hey, guess what? We're not paying $4,000 or $5,000 a month rent. We'll get a tent and we'll fucking camp out. And all those millionaires that have been making $4,000, $5,000 a month rent, after a year of people camping out, okay, they've got to pay property taxes on these $4,000, $5,000 a month per year rent properties. They can't keep doing that year after year.
Yeah, it's like,
so what are they going to do? They're going to be like, okay,
Seattle.
we're going to have to lower our rent now, right? And property values are going to strategically drop in these areas, making it very ethical and equitable for regular citizens to be able to afford it. But it takes education to inform the citizens so that we make sure that we're not crashing the economy. And, of course, that does mean responsibility at the city council level so that the city managers can make sure that property taxes are not set too unbelievably high, because property taxes are the number one reason why we have overinflated property values.
The idea of any apartment or condo or anything like that costing $4,000 to $5,000 a month is completely insane. And the thing is, though, that there are people that will actually pay for it, that can afford it, that are renting these places. So that's why they're able to charge so much. I mean, I'm not sure what kind of job you have to live in downtown Seattle, but you'd have to be some kind of CEO at a company or a president of a bank or something like that.
Well,
and that's exactly what's going on. Just like you say, there's
expense.
Homeless people everywhere. There's homeless people setting up tents right in front of businesses and right in the middle of the street.
Yeah, and the problem is we don't have a homeless people problem. We don't. We have like the way that we've been trained, and it's part of that cognitive dissonance of the United States, that we've been trained to look at homeless people. We look at them like they're lepers, like they have some kind of incurable fucking disease. And that's not the case at all. We have a problem, and we can absolutely solve this problem, but that means that we have to employ people, and we have to give them something that gives them purpose in their life. And that's not an easy thing to do, especially with the downtrodden population that's depressed all the time, like we have now. The real solution to curing homelessness is starting to work together and find, okay, we have a guy that has incredible skills as a plumber. There's a fucking town somewhere in Saskatchewan, right? And he could be relocated to be in that town and start working as a plumber and make a ton of money and be able to live a life that he never could have even imagined. And just 6 months ago, he was homeless.
Alexander.
How do we make that happen? How do we make that happen?
Alexander. Yeah. Where do you live?
Roanoke City, Virginia.
Virginia. Home of the CIA headquarters.
Well, actually, I live not very far away from a place called Bedford, which is really legendary. The movie The National Treasure was based loosely on Thomas Jefferson's Beale treasure that was buried in Bedford County, Virginia. And the Beale ciphers are very, very exciting because they're actually carved into a stone in front of the CIA's cryptography headquarters as one of the unbroken ciphers that exists in the world.
Very interesting. Did you ever run up against the CIA while you were in the armies?
In the United States Marine Corps? No, not specifically.
Not specifically.
I saw the effects of their handiwork.
Yeah, you were over there. Gotcha. Just curious. But you're in Virginia, not West Virginia. Isn't that two different places?
Oh, yeah, big difference.
Yeah. I got a friend that lives in West Virginia. He's
West Virginia basically is a war zone. If you think that Flint, Michigan is bad, the whole state of West Virginia has an opioid epidemic that is of monumental proportions. The coal jobs have dried up. People are literally it's bad. It's like Venezuela in West Virginia. People are absolutely sick of the government. They're sick of not having jobs, not having money. All the industry, all the real jobs have moved out. Everyone's on subsidized welfare of some kind or another. They're living off the state or off the federal government programs. It's bad.
Yeah, unfortunately,
horrible.
there are a lot of places like that out there. I'm kind of lucky in a way where I've always lived either in Seattle or very close to it, and I've always had just a lot of different jobs, a lot of different openings, a lot of different business going on, but it's completely different if you don't live within an hour or two of one of the major metropolitan cities. If you're not close to the city, it's going to be 100 times harder for you to find anything decent.
Yeah, and of course, cost of living. Just because you're making $6 an hour in an area that has low cost of living, it catches up. Because even if you're only paying $400 a month rent, I know that should be a dream for some people. But even if you're only paying $400 rent, you still have to pay for car insurance. You still have to there's so many different things that you have to own and operate and pay for just to be a member of society. Not even producing anything, just to be existing and alive. And to have an ID and use the features that society has you allowed to use. You have to literally be a rich person. And this actually goes into an exciting topic because I figured out what the single polarizing factor between all citizens is. And what that is everyone wants a way to class change. Everyone wants to either go from complete poverty into low class, or low class into middle class, or middle class into upper class. And so there's no clear-cut definitive way. There's no manual like there's what do you call it?
Communist Manifesto?
Correct. Yeah. There's no manual that says if you take these steps, if you live this way, if you do this, then you can move from your class to next class. There's no way to do that. There's no manual, there's no instructions, there's no education, there's no fallback program.
Basically what they tell you,
really need.
Your only chance is if you're a poor kid, you either have to get into sports or you have to be super smart and get a scholarship.
No, man, because I'm super fucking smart. I don't have a scholarship and I'm dirt.
No, what we need, Alexander, is we need somebody to go in there and start ripping these swamp creatures out of their swamp and pull the plug on the dirty swamp.
It's not quite that simple. It's not quite that simple.
No,
because
I know it's not simple.
They have a lot of very powerful friends in that swamp. The most important thing to remember is that these are people. They've done bad things. And the best way to deal with people that do bad things is to expose them to the general public so that the general public can deal with them. There's no need for us to go stomping and pulling them out of their organizations. As soon as their dirty deeds become public matter, and the public really sees what's going on, they're not going to hire them anymore. It's really that simple. And then, of course, there's nowhere on earth that they'll ever be able to go to outlive their shame.
And I'm going to say, Trump, love him or hate him, the best thing that he's done, my favorite thing that Trump has done, is put a spotlight on the swamp creatures.
Yeah, but he's still not getting rid of the bankers.
What's that, Dan?
Well, he's brought in
what did you say, Dan?
He's like Alex Jones. And Trump's no different than Alex Jones. He's got to protect his own assets. You know what I mean? He knows that they'll come after him if he fights hard enough. He's not stupid. These people are not playing games, okay? They think this is yeah, they'll kill you. They'll kill you. They'll kill your family. They'll shut down your business. They'll ruin you. Even people like Trump.
My friend asked me, what's your favorite things Trump did? He put a spotlight on the swamp creatures.
My problem is that he promised us all. He promised us all that he was going to go after Hillary, and as soon as he gets elected, he completely pulls a 180. I was extremely disappointed by that.
No, because look at everybody that goes after Hillary. Dead, suicide, 2 shots to the back of the head, suicide. I mean, come on, seriously? How many times does it take for people to realize that some very, very powerful people are backing Hillary?
Yeah. And that's a whole can of worms right there. The Clinton Foundation's a big can of worms.
Yeah, there was that friend of the Clintons. I think his last name was Foster, something like that. Very close to them. Vince Foster?
Yep.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah. He turned up dead.
I'll tell you the people that really concern me, okay? The people that really concern me are the people that we don't know about. And one of them is Jared Kushner. Okay, he's being very specifically groomed. He's being groomed to be a super CEO and super powerful individual.
Yeah, I won't vote for him for president. I won't.
But people will. That's the really crazy part. Is
I
because
won't.
he's powerful, he's charismatic, he's young. You know, like I said, he's been groomed for a while now for these positions.
He's got that nice smile. He looks like Prince
Correct,
Harry
yeah.
or William
So like
whoever.
one of my goals is to shift the paradigm in such a way that it makes it almost impossible for people like Jared Kushner to have any real power. So like during my presidency, one of the things I want to do is I want to actually break up the physical presidency into 5 component groups, almost like factions. And the concept is that every single year there will be a different presidential election for one of those 5 seats. And it prevents one person from being able to have too much power at one time. So, of course, there will be a vice president and, of course, a cabinet for each one of those individuals. This also gives the people a much higher opportunity to have a voice directly to their commander-in-chief, because each one of these 5 individuals would represent a portion of the population, right? If you broke down the population into 5 groups, they would be like consumers, people that own businesses, right? And of course, you can register if you own a business, you can register as a consumer, right, to vote, etc. But once your vote is cast, that's it. You can only really get that chance one time. You see what I mean?
You know,
So
for me,
what it does is it levels the playing field, and it gives the people a lot more say in how the country is run, and gives them much more finite control over how these individuals are able to help all citizens instead of just a small group of them.
what I would love to have would be the exact same system that we have right now, minus a few things, minus the campaign donations to only 2 parties, and then let's get rid of the entire electoral college and just go by popular vote. And I think I'd be 100% good with that.
I disagree with getting rid of the electoral college. Actually, the electoral college is a check and balance. It's extremely important. And what's wrong with the electoral college now is that we don't have the state legislature nailed down. The state legislature is very, very corrupt, so that people don't have a voice to the legislature that they're supposed to. If we fix the legislature, the electoral college fixes itself. Let me say that again. If we fix the individual state legislatures and the people have a direct voice to their representative, that's what that electoral college is made up of. The electoral college is the representative of the people and will actually make the votes and decisions that the people really need.
Yeah, what if we had
the electoral college is part of the cabal's plan? Let me just put that out there.
Yeah, what if we had an app where we could vote on each piece of legislature that's being passed,
Yeah.
like yes or no?
Yep. I've actually got that worked out, but the problem with running an app is it needs to be very, very secure, and that's all in the works, man. It's hard work.
So Alexander, do you listen to Daniel's show at all?
I'm going to be honest with you. I've been hard at work since the last time I did a show with him.
Well, you should listen to his damn show. It's the best show in the world. But anyways, there's another person that, on Daniel's show that's running for president.
Really?
Adam Kokesh.
Adam
You heard of
Kokesh
him?
is a libertarian
You're talking about the
candidate.
veteran that has the eye damage?
He is a veteran. He's famous for getting arrested for cocking a shotgun in front of the White House.
Yes. He might be my VP
So
then,
that-
because I need somebody to be the
another
face of the country
candidate.
while I'm doing stuff.
That's another candidate that we're kind of, we're looking at him.
I need a VP. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be playing undercover boss, and I'm going to cover half of the U.S. states. I'm going to be spending basically 2 months per state. So I'll get roughly half the states in the United States taken care of, and I'll be basically grilling all of these state and government organizations and telling them how to clean up their act. And over the course of 4 years, you'll see the United States economy and, of course, situation slowly improve while our borders are closed. After 4
So
years,
Alexander, if
Yeah.
you become president, are you going to bring attention to the flat Earth issue?
well, actually, that's what I'm here to talk about. Is I am extremely interested in a breakaway society, and I want to prepare the United States, which is why we need a 4-year break, for the breakaway society inevitability. In other words, we are no longer going to be relegated to stay on this prison planet. We can actually leave the Earth, start colonizing space almost right away.
Sounds very nice.
What do you think about infinite plane theory?
I will tell you that my technology for transdimensional transteleportation is not ever going to be available for mankind, at least not until we're waging wars and killing each other.
Yeah,
when that changes, then maybe I'll change my mind about giving mankind that technology.
Right, I'm just saying, like, the infinite plane, let's say if Earth is flat and it's an infinite plane, then we don't necessarily have to go to space. We just have to go across the Earth and find another place on Earth, practically. Because I feel like Earth is a realm, like one little spot on this massive plane that we could inhabit, and maybe we just need to get the right technology to go somewhere else.
Well, I will agree with you in one thing. We definitely need to terraform our own planet before we start trying to terraform other places. That means institutes need to be opened up, lots of studies into soil, bacteria,
Save
everything
the
that
starving children.
Yeah, correct. It's extremely important stuff. But realistically, the hard part about getting into space and space colonization and relieving some of this massive population growth is just getting access, cheap and safe access into space. And I don't plan on using rockets, unlike Elon Musk. I think
you know what I
think
love.
it's stupid if you send anything value up in the rocket that could explode.
Alexander, you know what I love?
What's
We're
that?
going to space. It's so fucking cool. Everyone's going to the moon. Hey, half the world's, 3/4 of the world's population of children are starving.
I know, but listen. So that's what I mean by momentum.
Let's go to
Okay?
space. Hey.
Yeah, we've got one child that starves every 3.5 seconds now, which is up from last year's statistic of about every 7 seconds or so. So even while we've had this conversation, over a dozen people have died of starvation, and that's actually one of the events that I'm planning as part of my campaign is a celebration. And part of that celebration is that we'll be bringing people together because I figured out a solution to world hunger and world poverty, effectually, of course.
Well, I want to touch on the infinite plane thing just real quick. I've thought about that quite a bit. I've seen the map, the Buddhist map that shows the continents outside of what we know of the existing continents. Like, it goes much further out. It's expanded. There's one problem with that, though. The sun and the moon seem to kind of just stay above us in this area. That seems to counter the infinite plane theory.
Right, so imagine this. We have two poles, right, a north and south pole. And I look at those as magnets, and the sun and the moon are magnetically attracted to those. So what I see is why are they attracted to only Earth is because that's the only place they're attracted to. They're not attracted to any place else. They're attracted to the poles, and the energy from the poles is what's moving the celestial bodies around.
Yeah. We have an active core. That's the reason why. They're just like in the sun, there's fusion. Just like in the core of our planet, there's also fusion. Okay, and the active core basically makes the Earth and Sun. And this is the revelation that Tesla had, when he realized induction, when he understood the rotating magnetic field and alternating current. And what that means is that the Sun produces a magnetic field, right? It induces a change in the Earth's magnetic field, and the Earth's magnetic field induces a change in the Sun. So by destroying our environment here on the Earth, we're actually more quickly degrading our own Sun. And that is reversible, and of course, it's going to take us generations to fix it. But the sooner we start, the better, honestly. And that's why I'm trying to get this momentum going towards a breakaway society, because as soon as that happens, all the technology will start to advance, and it will allow us the tools necessary to actually fix the planet, unlike what we have now.
Right on. Hey, I got a question. Are you still there, Sherry?
Oh, Todd, Sherry has to. Excuse me. Sherry has to work tomorrow. Sorry, I'm eating a pepperoni stick. Yeah, Sherry had to jump off the line because she has to work tomorrow. Dan, did you? Were you about to say something?
Yeah. So about the Tesla coils. Imagine if we have two. Let's just say Earth is mechanical, and let's just look at a mechanical. If we have two Tesla coils at the north, one at the North Pole, one at the south, and there's this energy transfer between them, and the electromagnetic rotation field that's happening around them, those lines of electromagnetism are what the compass follows, and that's what the sun uses to circle around the poles themselves. So that's why I look at it as mechanical, that we have this electromagnetic energy transfer that's causing everything that's happening up in the sky. And it could be, this is my far out theory, but the sun could be the point of arc between the two coils. And if that's the case,
there's definitely a gap. Yeah, well, that's why we see these CMEs, and that's why we see like solar flares and so on. Is there is certainly a gap that is occurring between the interaction of the change in the core difference of potential in the Earth and the sun. You're exactly right. Just there's a lot of details obviously that need to be filled in, but yes, absolutely. But instead of there being two Tesla coils, it's actually what it is there's three fields. Okay, so the first field, you're right, is electromagnetic field, and that's the strong field. So as the fusion core is interacting with the sun, it's producing an induced field, just like an induction motor inside of, let's say, an industrial three-phase motor. Okay, so the second field is the static field that is created by the interaction between all the molecules that touch the surface of the physical planet itself, and are trying to interact and change the voltage level from the inside of the Earth to the outside of the Earth and change that potential between the Earth and the sun. So that's your static field. Okay, so that's the second field. Your third field, okay, just like the sun is ringing, okay, just like a Tesla coil will ring at a specific resonant frequency, the Earth is also ringing, right? It's a beautiful thing. So that acoustic field is that third field interaction. So at a quantum level, what we're really seeing, it seems very simple, and it really is. There are these three fields that are intrinsically interacting and sort of pushing and pulling on each other at different times. That wobble that we have in the Earth, incidentally, is from an object that collided with what is now the North Pole a very long time ago and actually broke up Pangaea and caused all of the continental shift, and is the reason why the Earth is no longer ball-like and has a very unusual oblong shape now.
Right. So that
cataclysm is the same cataclysm that caused the flood and the original mass exodus with the super advanced human technology that left Earth and left us behind to tend for it after the cataclysm happened.
Right,
and you know this based on what source?
Well, if you just look at current historical models, if you look at all of the religious texts, if you look at Babylonian history, mythology,
Noah's flood.
Well, we're just putting pieces together. I mean, Noah's flood is the same story that's being told in almost every culture all around the world, including the Aborigines.
Right.
Yeah.
But the precessional sequence, I don't think proves that you're saying like the wobble of Earth. What I see when I look at precession is that I don't think it proves globularity. I think it proves like just celestial regularity. To where, let's say if we have the North Star as Polaris right now, it's going to be the North Star in 26,000 years. But that regularity of the stars doesn't change, meaning like Polaris will circle around the ecliptic pole over and over and over and over. And I think that regularity proves that we're completely motionless underneath the celestial plane that's in motion above us. And this regularity shows us that it's not a wobble of a globular planet, but it's the ebb and flow.
From a frame of reference, you're right. Yeah, from a very specific frame of reference, you're absolutely correct. So, if you're looking at it from a time-based differential perspective, it would appear as if the Earth itself is completely frozen in time. And there's a very, very small frame of movement that the Earth actually goes through from a multidimensional perspective. And in that way, because from a non-time domain based perspective, what you're actually going to see is the direct cause and effect of electromagnetism, those three fields that I described. Mm-hmm. So the Earth itself isn't moving. What you're actually seeing is the movement of space that is pulling through the matter of Earth and is causing all the phenomena that we observe on Earth that we believe to be time domain based specific activity.
Right. And so if every star is circling around the galactic center proportionate to its mass and distance from the center, then every star should have a different position after each great year. Because
disagree. And the reason is because we're observers. We're dynamic, non-deterministic, finite observers. And so our observation is actually what creates the changes that we observe in our solar system. So it's because we're individual actors. we have that actuation potential. And every day we actually affect the way that the Earth changes. And, of course, that means we affect the sun, even if it's just very, very minuscule.
Well, I love the way you think, Greg.
Yeah, there's something that
Alexander.
they used to debate quite a bit back in the very, very old days. It was the lack of a stellar parallax, where there's just, if the Earth is round, then we should, and it's spinning and all that stuff's going on, then we should, at least the angle that we view the stars should change just a little bit. And we don't really notice anything at all like that.
It does. It happens, but it's very, very irregular. Okay, and actually, Neil deGrasse Tyson touches on this just a little bit. But if you want to read in the Bible, Joshua, I think, when the sun stood still for almost a full 24-hour period, how do we explain phenomena like that? Well,
sun
okay,
moves, Earth doesn't. Earth moves.
Think about our calendar year. Okay, so we have a leap year. Okay, so if you add 1,000 leap years up, guess what? What happened?
The sun moves at a different rate than the stars, so we have to adjust for the sidereal time and the solar time because the stars move faster than the sun.
Yep, and even our zodiacs also change. That's still changing because the solar system, while it's moving, the galaxy is also moving and spreading apart as well. So
theoretically,
while it's incremental and we only live 120 years, over the course of eons, this changes quite a bit tremendously.
It should be noted that it's never actually been proven that our universe is expanding. That's only a theory. We don't know if it's expanding, contracting, or if it's simply infinite.
Well, let me tell you something fun. Okay, so I'm developing faster than light travel, all the stuff that we need so that mankind can actually cultivate the stars. And what I'm doing,
we're going to get onto something fun.
When I become a very, very old man, okay, I will be leaving the planet on a spaceship of my own design. And I will be racing to the end of the universe to prove once and for all whether or not the universe ends or not. And that will be part of my legacy that I provide for mankind for pretty much the rest of time.
Alexandros, you're not going to do that, buddy. I'm sorry.
I'm totally going to do that. I'm totally fucking serious.
Okay, we're going to place a bet. 20 years from now, if you don't have that thing built, you owe me $1 million.
Not 20 years, 20 years. Hold on. It depends on how things go. Okay, if things go really well, within 30 to 50 years, I'll be ready to give mankind this technology. Within 30 to 50 years.
You talking about 0-point energy or wait?
Yes. ZPE combined with fusion, because that way it's unweaponizable. Because if you just give them a fusion device, then of course they'll be able to just pull infinite energy from it, and they won't be responsible with it, and they'll do stupid shit with it, like making fusion bombs. But if I put a regulator on it, like ZPE, then of course it makes it tamper-proof, and then you can't weaponize it.
A bunch of nerds just clapped and did a high five. But Alexander, appreciate all your intelligence. You're so fired up and inspired. I was going to bring up Michael Jackson. How do you feel about this situation this week with Michael Jackson?
Completely innocent, defamed, targeted by Illuminati because he bought the Sony catalog and pissed off a bunch of powerful people. Now they want to slander him and paint him as a pedophile.
Well, it's bigger than that because he's been low key, basically opening up the eyes of truth of the population for a while, and he's been trying to expose them for a while. I mean, look at Neverland Ranch. It was supposed to be open to the population for free. Nobody has to pay for it. Well, the cabal can never have anything that exists like that for free.
But he's got 30 kids staying the weekend.
Yeah. Well, not just that, but he also exposes the problems with Hollywood and California and the music industry because his childhood was stolen from him, and he was just trying to experience his childhood in a kind of coming of age after he had already reached adulthood. And so this was really exposing to the public something that a lot of the public had no clue about. They don't understand Hannah Montana turning into a woman, blossoming all of a sudden after being a Disney star, or Britney Spears for that matter, or even Katy Perry.
So Michael Jackson was bringing the truth to the public with his behavior.
In a very big way. And they want to make sure that they can discredit and defame him as much as possible.
He did actually...
Or any kind of legacy he might leave behind.
I could actually point out where he did such a thing. The first one was the cover of his album... which one was it? His last one. Can anybody help me out with this one?
This Is It? This is it?
I believe so. Let's see. No, it's actually
They
Dangerous.
made a movie called This Is It.
So the album cover for Dangerous, it actually has a bunch of symbolism in it. It has actual symbolism where he's kind of trying to educate the public about certain things that are going on in the background. And then there's also his song, They Don't Really Care About Us, which is exactly that. It's about the powers that be that just don't really give a shit about all of us proletarian masses out here.
And he would know because he could buy anything he ever wanted and have everything he ever wanted. So he knows, yeah. Right.
There's another guy they did the same thing to. His name was I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, I was just welcoming somebody on my Twitter to the podcast.
And I didn't mean to change the subject from a dull, dry, nerdy scientific discussion. I had to bring.
Oh, no. Listen. So I want to say, like, one of the most important things that I can say, on this show, especially for you guys, because it's End of Days Radio. One of the most important facets that I can cover is the idea that, like, a revelation type end, is it avoidable? Is it truly, utterly avoidable? And I think the answer is that we can postpone it. We can postpone it, and we can postpone it, and we can postpone it. But it has to be
we don't have to die in a ball of flame.
Humankind, it has to be a concerted effort. Like, it's going to take effort. It's going to be something that we're, like, a discipline thing that we're going to have to be after for generation after generation if we want to avoid it. But ultimately, there will be a revelation-like end. And the choices that we make from this point forward, I can't emphasize this enough. The technology is just advancing so rapidly. The only thing we can do from this point forward is try to avoid as many bad probable outcomes as possible. Weaponizing VR, weaponizing AR, weaponizing AI, doing stupid stuff. You know what I mean?
Sex robots.
Yep, exactly.
Very cool.
Or just
guys,
robots taking advantage or exploiting robots in general. I mean, it's just a bad idea, There's lots of really bad probable outcomes that can come. Like, even space exploration especially comes with a lot of necessarily bad probable outcomes, especially for a society and a civilization that has not given up warlike and violent tendencies.
Guys, I do
space travel
want
is going to be a problem if we approach it as if space is a vacuum. Space can't be proven to be a vacuum. So if we approach space travel like it's a fluid medium to travel through, I think we're going to get headway with that.
Guys, I want to take things in a little bit of a different direction. We're kind of entering into the last phase of the roundtable, so I want to just go to each person individually on a couple different topics. And I'll just kind of go to each of you and let you say your piece on this topic. There's something I've been really going over with myself quite a bit lately, and that's the existence of aliens. I personally have spent probably like 15, 20 years studying aliens, learning everything I could about the reptilians and the Pleiadians and alien abductions and stuff like that. And I've sort of become disillusioned. I found out that a lot of this alien stuff is put out there by Illuminati, and a lot of this stuff, it could be demonic, who knows, but I don't really believe in aliens anymore. I just want to go to each person. Let's start with Alexandros. What do you think about aliens in general? What are your thoughts? Do you believe in aliens, and how do you feel about them in general, please?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of a fence sitter on this one, but this is what I think. If aliens do in fact exist, I have a very strong belief that they are actually the ones. Remember, I mentioned a mass exodus from Earth when the last catastrophe happened. I think that's what they are. And of course, because if they were super advanced and they developed faster than light travel, then why would they also have advanced genetic technology to modify their own genes? So if they've been gone for, let's say, 150,000 years, and they suddenly show back up because of time dilation from them traveling faster than the speed of light, suddenly they come back. Their genetics are very different. They look very, very, very different than we would. And so to us, it appears that they're not humanistic anymore, that they don't share the same genetics as we do. And then from, of course, their position, we are much more primitive than they would be. So if aliens do in fact exist, I believe that there's a very high probability that they were very much genetically similar to us in many, many ways. And of course, over many, many thousands of years and advanced technology, they've of course changed their appearance and shed their mortality, if you will. But go ahead.
Okay, very good. Dan, you want to go next?
Oh, yeah, so I guess there's a couple different ways you could classify what an alien is. It's just something that's unknown to you. So I think there's a few different unknowns that we group together as one. There's the the phenomenon where things get thrown across the wall, ghosts and stuff like that. That's an unknown phenomenon. The ancient artifacts that we have of carvings of people giving technology to ancient humans is another unknown. And then the third is the science fiction, like in the movies, like the aliens with the little green men. So I think the physical aliens, the little green men, if those little green men exist, they're our neighbors from across the pond, and we just forgot about them, but they gave us the technology to advance. But the unknown phenomenon of the poltergeist and all that, I think that the material realm is a very loosely knit realm on top of the ethereal. So the ethereal can move the material in ways that are unseen because we only see 1% of the spectrum of light. So it's just like there could be many things that are invisible to us, but that are actually there. So at the end of the day, there's going to be a need to call together every nation to fight, like Reagan said, a formidable foe. And I think that's going to be a fake alien invasion from the sky.
Agreed.
And if that ends up happening, that's not to discredit the other phenomenon that we can't, describe. It just means that that's going to be a falsified scenario. It doesn't mean that, we don't have aliens across the pond that we forgot about. It doesn't mean that, perhaps demons influence our material world. But I foresee a fake alien invasion coming just simply because that's the only way to join every country together into one system to fight some alien invasion. That's
why I mentioned the danger of the disclosure movement. That's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to get as many people as they can, focus and attention, and they have absolute control that way. And so, there must be a way to derail this disclosure movement, and that's exactly what our organization is working towards by promoting the Second Renaissance. But go ahead.
You got anything else, Dan?
Just that if little green men exist, they're most likely going to be friendly, because if you look at all life as we know it,
amen,
it's friendly. Love triumphs over fear any day of the week. So I think, if anything, we need to approach the scenario with love and openness instead of fear.
Come talk to us, man.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And that's why they won't come talk to us, because we're too busy killing each other.
Yeah.
Todd, you still there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm here, my man.
All right, you ready? You ready for your turn? Go ahead on aliens.
I am so ready because Alexandros, you're so smart. Where you been, my man? Please don't be a stranger to End of Days Radio. Daniel, or Dan? Is it Dan or Daniel?
Dan.
Have you ever called in before?
No, it's my first time. I usually stick to Instagram. My Instagram is Earth is a Plane, but I have Earth is a Plane 7 on Twitter, and I found Daniel through Twitter.
I've listened to every show of End of Days going back 5 years. Some of them 10 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I'll check
I'm a long time fan. He got bored with all these incredible guests. But, man, you two brains I could retire, let you guys just talk for the rest of the evening. You're so smart. But you got to keep it entertaining, guys. On the aliens. On the aliens. Like, you're both right. There's something here. The aliens like the other. Terrence McKenna almost explained it. The show started out real exciting with the psilocybin talk, and then dropped into the gutter political stuff. And the gutter is only because America's sick of politics right now. They're sick to their stomachs, or at least I am. We want a leader, and Alexandros, we're going to vote for you on the aliens. They're trying to create a picture, whoever runs the world, of this is what the aliens look like. Do you remember when they brought out the guy from Blink 182, Tom DeLonge?
Yep.
Yeah,
I remember that.
That was
the
fairly
Joe Rogan
recent.
podcast. Yeah.
With
that
the
was
CIA, and he's got a
man.
secret
That was
guy
like red
that's telling
flags.
him,
I was like red flags all over.
Wasn't
this
that
is
on
those
the
guys.
Joe Rogan Experience?
Yeah.
Totally.
I remember Tom DeLonge,
Introducing,
yeah.
hey, we're going to do the revelation. Yeah. The revelation is that, like you guys been saying, if they were around and something incredible is going to happen, it would have happened. So the fact they're slow rolling this thing out means it's more controlled by these guys.
Correct.
Of whatever the message is.
That's how I feel.
If aliens are real, they're probably, aliens probably fucking exist, like weird creatures under the water on other planets. You can't even communicate with them. You can picture that. If other planets are real. You know what I mean?
I mean, there's an infinite universe of stars out there, so there's got to be other inhabitable planets, right?
So I'm just saying you could picture primitive life forms on other planets under the water that don't talk to you. That's easy enough to picture, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. My issue with that is, theoretically the universe is infinite, is it? But the problem is that if there were aliens, they wouldn't look like bipedal humanoids with binocular vision. They look like spiders or octopi, just like in the bottom of the sea. And the other thing is, we've never really found anything. No radio transmissions, no artifacts. There really is just jack shit. And if there really were aliens, if there was ancient aliens, we should know something about where they come from, what their society is like. We should have some sort of artifact. We should have some sort of radio signal or something. Let's face it,
Let me
this
put out
guy
some
is
string of
dead.
details for you, okay? So let's say there was an advanced alien race, okay? And this advanced alien race had developed technology that basically that allows them no longer to need their physical form. So, what would an alien look like to us that is existing in the fourth dimension? So to us, it may appear as if this alien is not moving for long periods of time, or would suddenly appear and disappear within a single frame of reference of what we would consider like a second of our time. So if we met one of these advanced aliens, would we even know? Would we even know what we're looking for? Would it be just so fantastic it would be difficult for us to even experience with our limited sense perceptions?
Hey, Dan, you were talking about DMT earlier, right?
Yeah, that I like.
No, wait. It lasts about 10 minutes, you said, right?
Roughly.
You know what else does that? Have you ever played the pass-out game?
I have not, no.
So when you were a kid, you didn't pass each other out?
No, none of that.
That's got to be really bad for you.
It's a pretty easy technique. And guess what? You only go out for about 20 seconds, but you have visions that last like 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So people know this. The same effects are being
That's
produced.
because you just killed like 1 million brain cells.
Yeah,
that's also
exactly.
true.
Your brain just Yeah.
Right.
Do I sound like I'm suffering from the killing of 20 million brain cells?
No, but I was
Years
thinking
later?
psychedelics. You always breathe though, so you don't have an absence of oxygen. So when you're tripping, you remembering to breathe is key. But you do not deprive your brain of oxygen.
What I'm saying is it's accessing the same neurons in the brain.
Okay.
The effect works the same, and you didn't know that.
Well, I feel like the entheogen plus oxygen equals a different result than no entheogen without oxygen. That I feel like it's a different.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is there's a plane that exists that you're reaching with the DMT, and you can reach it with the pass-out thing.
Well, you could reach it without it, honestly.
Or in your dreams.
Yep.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, perception is, you can get your perception on another level without anything at all, for sure. But I feel like if you wanted to, that you mentioned McKenna earlier too, that touch the incorporeal goddess and feel the felt presence of immediate experience. If you want to see beneath the veil, then that's the number one way to do it, for sure.
I do, yeah. I want to do that. But on aliens, the alien, Terrence McKenna said he saw them, and they were like an insectoid thing when he was on something like DMT, ayahuasca or something down in South America in his book, Food of the Gods. But he said he looked at it, and it was like an insect. It was like a natural creature that was already here in the forest. You can't see it because it looks like if you can't see it in our normal consciousness because it looks just like the surroundings of our world.
Exactly.
Like an insect that's hiding among the leaves, looking at you.
Yep. The evidence of our design is everywhere. I agree. You can't walk 1 foot without seeing design in yourself every single place you go. That's why I ultimately think that we're connected to the Creator on a divine level, because if you can,
Amen.
If I walk outside and look at a tree and I notice that tree is shaped just like the brain cells in my head, something is so fractal about the way trees grow, and it's just the way the consciousness expands, and it's just like everything expands, and it's all connected. So it's just kind of like you can have that revelatory experience without it, but I think that the number one thing that it does is it leaves you no doubt. When it hits you, it leaves you with no doubt.
Rocks you like a hurricane, like that Scorpions song, that horrible Scorpions. Rocks you like a hurricane.
Yeah, Scorpions are good.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're looking for a sign, then you can look for that within, and I think that's the best way to dive, is to dive within an entheogen, and that's...
Wow, I can't wait till my state makes it available.
Well, I mean,
Utah,
it's not,
don't
you
count
just
on
got to
it,
make
buddy.
it yourself. It's a simple ingredient.
To make it myself?
Yeah, it's a simple ingredient list, and you can make it in a short amount of time, and it's safer that way because you know exactly what was done to it.
You have to take a huge
look
jug
into that.
of
Send me the
something.
recipe.
Add me on Instagram. Earth is a plane, and add me on Instagram, and I'll send me a message, and I'll send you my recipe for sure.
All right. Well, I'm glad you
Don't
called
try this
Daniel
at home,
Joy. I hope you
kids.
keep calling in.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Very smart. We are too over here.
And on the next episode of End of Days Radio, we will be teaching you how to cook the blue meth.
No,
Whoa.
How to get rich quick. Yeah.
none of that.
How to beat the system.
We're going to beat these guys.
We're finally going to get ahead, and we got to sell
One
meth.
gram of blue crystal at a time. No.
You want to see some aliens.
Trying to expand people's consciousness, not take advantage of people's stupidity.
Yeah. That's another thing, another topic as well. Drugs are such an elusive, however the right way to say this. It's so many different things, and it means so many different things all at once. But it needs to be classified. Like drugs should be a negative term, and then there should be another word for the positive term.
Well, the people that run the world know all about what drugs do. Believe that. The people that are using drugs on a mass scale don't.
There's a concerted effort to stigmatize certain drugs in certain categories, like LSD, for example. No one will take you seriously if you say, "Oh, well, I took LSD once." People they won't take you seriously if you've done like mushrooms or something. Like, "Oh no, like you have some kind of disease," like I mentioned about homeless people.
Stigmatized.
You have leprosy or something. Yeah, and it's totally bad. Like it's totally terrible that's being done, that's happening, and that's not by accident. That's by design.
Of course.
Oh yeah.
There's
the people
definitely
that
something
put it out
there.
want to make you look bad because you used it.
The experiences that I've had, they've been positive, definitely mind expanding. Even had some psychic experiences, which kind of led me down the path of doing the show and being interested in paranormal, supernatural stuff. So it's been mostly positive. I've had a couple bad trips where I might have done some moldy shrooms and torn up a kitchen chair, something like that, but nothing that bad.
You tore up a moldy kitchen chair?
Something like that.
That's crazy.
But hey guys, I do want to take control real quick. Once again, kind of got off track, but I did want to do. I did want to go to each person one more time, or at least one more time, actually 2 more times. But I do want to talk about the devil himself, Satan, Lucifer. Does he exist? Is it all in our minds? Is it just a bunch of bullshit? Let's go in the same order. Alexandros, please start.
Yeah. So the Jung talks about the Gnostics, and he's really fascinated with the concept of Abraxas, or the Great Archon. And why I find this fascinating is because what I think Lucifer actually is a component of creation. I mean, it even tells us in the Bible that he was the greatest among the angels, the most beautiful, the bright morning star, right? All of these things. So it's a luminary, right? It's illumination. But with that illumination, right, if you have this incredible power, it means you also have an incredible responsibility, right? So Luciferianism, which is kind of the direction the Illuminati is trying to push everybody into, to get them into this false dichotomy, to get them to believe into their false prophet that they're going to choose, whether it's the Antichrist or whatever. Lucifer isn't necessarily a singular person. It's a component, a facet of creation, because it is creation itself. It's artificy. The fact that you can create music, that you have a talent that you can use to manufacture something, whether it's real or imaginary, is a component of creation. And this can be done either for good or for great evil. Right. And if you want to ask what Lucifer really is, ask the question, what indeed is the purpose of purpose and intent, right, in the creation of something? So like think about fear objectively, not subjectively, but objectively. If I am afraid of something, I am spending as much time, as much energy as I possibly can. And instead of surviving and thriving and going after what my talent will allow me to do, I have basically used fear to construct a stone that I myself cannot lift, right? And so this basically turns the act of creation against itself. So it's kind of difficult to describe, but essentially Lucifer, Satan, right, it is, I guess you could say evil incarnate, but really it's embodied by fear, it's embodied by hate. The dark side of the force is a good way to explain it. And I think I'll just pretty much end it there.
What you're saying is it's energy. You can focus in a negative or a positive. What are you
correct? Well, I mean,
on?
The duality goes back to God creating the universe, right? Where he said that he created the light and then he created the dark and then he separated the two, right? He wanted to make a distinction that at one time there was this kind of fuzzy gray that was going on where light and dark intermingled. And then now we have, this objective where we can say, okay, there is definitely this narrow path, and that is the light path, right? And there's this other path that while it looks bright, okay, to evil people, it is actually indeed a dark path.
Very interesting. Dan, did you want to go ahead and go next?
Yeah, so I like how you said duality, because I find that the duality of our reality is ultimately connected to the polarity of actuality, and that ultimately means that I think good needs evil, and like you were saying, it's part of creation. It's a part of where we are in this dualistic reality. It's a necessity, and it manifests in many different ways, and I think love and fear are on these different sides of the scale, and ultimately what life is about is the balance between these two in this realm, because I think they were unified at some point in a higher realm, and perhaps that's why everybody says that God is one, but there's somebody that sits on the right hand, somebody that sits on the left hand, and so if Jesus sits on the right, then Lucifer sits on the left. but they're both
Where's Allah sit? Where's
Sorry?
Allah sit?
I'm sorry?
Where's Allah sit? Or Buddha? On the left or the right?
Well, each of those religions has its own duality also. It just does it in a different way.
And I know you're talking Western. I know you're talking Western Christian civilization.
Right,
the duality.
But the duality ultimately connects to the top at the higher realm to form the Trinity. So the Trinity is ultimately what's controlling everything, is what I see. But what's manifesting is
even in the Middle East, they have the duality in their religious system. It's almost identical to the Christian one, but it's a 700 years later.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I see the Egyptian religion predating Christianity by a long shot. But the thing is that everything has that dualistic nature to it by necessity, and I think it's by design. I think that whatever is above us in a higher realm is unified, and it divided itself to experience itself subjectively, and we are part of the subjective consciousness up in this higher realm, but we're now subjective, and some people live on the right, some people live on the left, and that's why everything is the way it is. There's male and female, there's Democrat, Republican, everything is divided, and I don't think there's any sense in unifying anything down here. The only way to bring real harmony is to literally harmonize the two and put them into balance, because if there's too much good, if you didn't feel pain, you wouldn't know, like non-pain. If you didn't live a decent, good life, you wouldn't know Oh yeah, definitely.
Or poor. If you weren't
interestingly
poor, you
enough,
wouldn't know what it's like.
Like I mentioned before, there is always going to be a postponement of something like the idea of revelation. And the reason why, let's say, for example, like a utopian kind of society begins to bud and grow, and we start to have children that don't question or understand the nature of good or evil. And so they grow up completely peaceful, and suddenly one of them grows up to be, let's say, like a sociopath, for example, and becomes a murderer and a tyrant and a leader in some way, right? So no matter how perfect you get, at some point there is a transition, there's a shift. If you look at the lore behind the Star Wars series, you have Darth Plagueis, for example, when he's training Darth Sidious. Darth Plagueis figures out a way to change and mold and modify the life force of the light side of the Force by using the dark side of the Force, right? And of course, that set in motion all of the events that caused Anakin to be born, and then, of course, balance being brought back to the Force once again in the galaxy. So the same is also true. Like, we can do good things for a long time and then end up basically transforming mankind into a kind of lemming-like hive mentality. And so people would say, oh, well, this is a kind of utopia. Well, actually, subjectively, it's also a kind of hell. It'd be like living Groundhog's Day every single day of the year. You know what I mean? And so,
inside of every seed, inside of every seed or idea or whatever exists its own heaven and its hell.
Yeah.
Inside of every path that you choose, there's that. Every technology, like you were saying earlier, has that heavenly delivery or the hellish delivery.
Why was it invented? For example, the AI that I'm developing, the whole purpose behind me inventing it and the intent for it is it's a legacy for our children so that they can leave the planet. But it's also part of a faster than light, navigation system that is going to allow mankind the tools that are necessary so that we can start colonizing space. And it takes time for that to happen, right? Now,
I love that you're trying to get off the planet. I love that part.
My software was to make me money and create a global empire. I certainly would have gotten it, but then the AI is going to question the reason why it was created, and it's going to want to ask the creator why that happened, right? So there are certain things that have to be done, very, very carefully from here forward.
Okay, Todd, did you want to give your thoughts on the devil?
So I get my final thought on the devil?
Go ahead.
Okay. Devils, I pulled the tarot card the other night. I have tarot cards. They're very accurate. I just thought I'd bust them out and pull one card. Guess what card I pulled?
The devil card.
The devil. Yeah. And I went, that is so funny. I'm getting ready to go on Daniel's show, because I got to be there for Daniel's show. The first round table he's ever held with 2 new callers, and Sherry dropped out. You guys are smarter than hell, but man, the devil, he's your worst nightmare and he's your best time. He's everything you love about the world and then everything you regret the next day when you got to go to church and repent.
Okay.
He's an archetype that goes back to the beginning of time. It's a control mechanism.
Yep. Agreed.
And there's a power there, though. People that understand it can write it. It's not a bad thing if you look at it from a certain perspective. Over in Haiti, where they want to get the spirits in them, they don't look at devils or whatever as we would view them in our Western civilized society as a bad thing. It's, it could be a bad thing, but at the same time, it's more like a power, an energy. In the beginning of mankind, I'm kind of anthropological. I like to talk in anthropology. Earliest man looked at everything from a animistic perspective, where the rocks had life, the trees had life, the wind had life.
Pantheism.
We were part of all that. It's not atheism. We were part of the life spinning mechanism. They didn't have a white guy that sat up in heaven judging everybody on a scale. Egyptians were the first ones where you kind of have that scale in the religious terms.
Cool. Anything else, Todd, on the devil?
On the devil, yeah. Ozzy Osbourne did an album, Speak of the Devil. Did anybody ever hear that?
He has a lot of albums.
Well, Randy Rhoads died. He did 2 successful records, and then he put out a live album called Speak of the Devil. I recommend it. It's a live version of all the Ozzy Osbourne songs, Speak of the Devil. Devil's an archetype that our modern-day society uses as a control mechanism. Gets people, religious people, excited. Yeah, for or against. Polarizing technique. CIA probably loves that concept. That's pretty much my thoughts.
Cool. And I had one more that I wanted to go to each person on, and that topic is none other than the end of days itself. What's going on? Could this be true? Is it all a bunch of bullshit once again? Or are we indeed in the last days, the revelations? Alexandros.
Okay, so just like every good story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, what I like to call the message in a bottle, called the Bible, and other religious texts all around the world, they have a beginning, they have a middle, and they have an end, right? So when you are able to write a text that is literally going to program entire generations of people, when you write the end is designed as a kind of warning system, right? There are certain things, certain patterns that are going to repeat, and when you see these patterns, it's time to start throwing up red flags and saying, wait a minute, hold on, what's going on here? What I mean by this is that the Bible is just an instruction manual on how to, if there's a cataclysm, how to get mankind from a babbling, crawling on the ground, poop-slinging monkey race into a highly intelligent, highly organized system of groups of people that can actually either sufficiently advanced to leave their bodies and no longer have a need for a physical form, or to leave the planet that they're on so that they can start the process of that next level of enlightenment, right? Now, the revelation side of this is, the end of days side of this is, that our sun really will die. It's going to happen. It's a scientific fact. We know that at this point. What are we doing about that? What are we doing to fix this? Is there a way to fix it? Are we going to accept our end and say, well, there's no way to go about this, and the entire world, like I said, there's 90% of the population that actually believe this story. If somebody came along and suddenly said some of these events are coming to pass, they're going to buy it hook, line, and sinker, making, Hitler correct in wanting to kill all the Jews and saying that they're terrible, that they're going to murder thousands and thousands of people, which makes sense because that's exactly what Revelation is. It's a kind of doctrine, a religious doctrine that says there's going to be a group of people that comes along and they're going to kill everybody else off unless you do what they tell you to do. And that's kind of what the situation is setting up to look like. I mean, look at what's going on in Israel right now. Look at how they control the global economic forum, how they control war. It's really kind of scary when you think about it.
It's totally disgusting.
In my opinion, though, it is 100% avoidable. It is absolutely avoidable, and we can just completely get away from it. It just depends on whether or not we can prevent a Leroy Jenkins situation that will cook things off and cause like a World War III or like a civil war that basically forces the cabal's hand into controlling the population through martial law, et cetera. There's a lot of really bad outcomes that can happen. But, yeah, go ahead.
It makes me sick.
Anything else, Alexandros?
That's pretty much it for now. I mean, I just wanted to say that while I do believe that generally that we're on the track to a civilization where there is certainly an end in sight, it's 100% avoidable, and we can totally fix this. We got this.
Right on.
Very, very positive. Dan,
I like that.
You? How about you, Dan?
Yeah, I look at it slightly different in a sense of just a different perspective. I see the real world events happening, but I see the term apocalypse technically means like a disclosure or like a revelation of knowledge. So what I feel like is going to happen is the revelation of knowledge is going to actually overturn the evil that's happening, and in a sense, the end times could be the end of the oppression that's going on, and we're going to finally be liberated from basically this cyclical pattern that's been going on where we become sovereign people and then we get trapped into government. We become sovereign people, we become trapped, and this cycle's been happening for thousands of years. And I think maybe at some point in the near future we're going to come out of that, and the what's going to actually end is this cloudy vision of people where they don't really have a sense of awareness. We're going to figure out who we are, because we're being lied to on so many levels that people don't know who they are. And when people actually realize who they are on a mass scale, I think that's going to be the end of the cycle that we're being stuck in. We're going downhill fast, but I think what's going to happen is at the bottom,
a paradigm shift for sure.
Yeah,
definitely, I agree.
It's like a trampoline, and when we reach the bottom of the hill, we're going to bounce up faster than when we fell down. And I think the only way to actually accomplish that is to approach the situation in that way. Like we need a break, though. That's the reason. That's what I'm proposing, man. Is mankind needs a break. Like the United States needs a break. The people need a break. We need a chance, like a serious advocacy, because nobody's giving us a choice. There's no consent in this. How fast we are advancing forward. We need some choices. We need to sit back and like make a serious plan and a concerted effort to say, how fast do we want to make this happen? And how do we want to keep that momentum going? Like, what kind of stress is that going to cause? What kind of problems is that going to cause? We need to have some measures in place. It's super important. I agree. I absolutely agree, because that's exactly what Armageddon is. It's like this mass revealing. But that's why I'm worried about the cabal and what they're up to with this disclosure movement, because they're going to try to steal the attention and focus away of all these people, and they're going to deceive thousands of fucking people, man, millions of people. It's going to be so crazy. Yeah, definitely. It's like when you know the like if you know where to put the attention, if you know something's major is going to happen, you know where to put the diversion. if you already can know it's going to happen. Because I think that's why they keep all that shit locked up in the Vatican or in those vaults. Because there's something that they're not telling us. There could be a what's called a cyclical Earth reset, where like earthquakes and tsunamis just flood everything every 6,000 years, and that's a theory I'm working on is reset theory, where it's just every so often shit hits the fan, and it's just a thing that happens, and we remember it, but we kind of don't, because the knowledge of it's being kept in a vault. But
yep, that fits with my theory about the message in a bottle. Yeah, definitely. I can agree with that. I'm driving with that.
That reminds me of the Police song, "Message in a Bottle."
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, we can trace genealogical records for about 6,000 years. I think they go dark. So I mean, based on
message in a bottle, yeah.
So what it appears to be is that our modern civilization is only 6,000 years old, and that's due to the last reset. So it depending on the cycle, we could be due for a reset any time now. So I think that the breakaway civilization should be trying to figure out where to go. In the midst of this, like in a sense, we're at the time where Noah's got to build the ark, and we need to build the ark, but it's not that physical boat. It's an ark of another type.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I'm working on is mankind's legacy, so that our children have those options, those choices they can make.
Oh yeah. I think the only way to do that is to go find another place to call home, like another Earth, and it's just. I think it's more simple than people realize, like floating on a balloon. Like, we don't need rockets. We can float in the atmosphere and float with the the electric wind and be propelled straight on to another land.
Yeah.
And that would be
well, that's definitely going to happen. I agree with the rapture, especially in the Revelation model. There certainly will be an entire group of enlightened people that will evolve beyond the need for their physical form, and it's going to happen probably all at once, just like the Bible predicts.
Oh yeah, I'm not talking about just going outside the physical. I'm talking about inside the physical, like inside this physical realm that we live in. I think we could go to another place of Earth that nobody is at right now, because I think what we have is a lot of people ask where's the edge of flat Earth, and I think it's just the edge of our human exploration. I think there's so much more to explore, and we've stopped exploring because we've turned Earth into a ball, and we have a couch and Netflix and popcorn, and we're fine with it, but we're not exploring anymore. And I think we just need to keep exploring, and that's the key to getting out of this mess is the end of our entrapment on this little spot. This tiny little speck of land.
Prison planet. That's what I call it.
If we could just get more DMT in people's hands, everyone will wake up. Hey,
it has to be a choice, though. You know what I mean? You can't just force this. I mean, this is powerful stuff, man. Like I said, it's not a toy.
Yeah, it's a choice.
People are not going to want to make that decision, and it's scary stuff.
I hope you know I'm kidding when I say that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the choice comes first, and then the action, and in that order, dramatic effects happen. But if it happens in the wrong order, then it's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, I don't see it. How about this one, guys? Because you're both so smart. We're in the middle of an intelligence explosion, Daniel. So here's my thing on the end of the day's question, right? Daniel?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of an intelligence explosion. That means everything that's ever known by mankind is increasing exponentially every second. AI is already here. Artificial intelligence computer programs are here. What level they're at, we don't know, but knowledge is increasing exponentially. The elite will want to keep this in their hands. The problem is you can't sort it out fast enough, and they're lazy, weak people. So we got that going for us. There are people that sit around and ask other people to do the work, right? The people that run the world aren't doing.
You're talking about the lazy magicians. Yeah. Well, it's going to take wizards to make the real changes. Like me.
No, but I'm saying the system as it exists has the wealth, the technology, everything, but they got to rely on people to do the work. So that's what I'm trying to say. Comes in, we're in an intelligence explosion. The computers are helping the knowledge. You're a guy into the planets, Dan. You can see the mechanics of the solar system. Look at the mechanics of an intelligence explosion. It's too much information to sort out. They got some smart people, Dan.
Emergence.
But they don't got people smart enough to sort through all the shit that's coming through. Because they're selfish people. They have specific things. They're not looking for the answers to the universe. They're looking for how do we control the planet. Do you see how they'll miss it?
Yep.
You see how if they gave instructions like, go help me control the planet, they're going to miss all the information that's exploding. They'll have scientists, it's important, over there, but their main thing is control. So they're going to miss it.
That's how I feel about mainstream science, is they're falling so short right now. We could be advancing much, much faster, and we could have access to much more life-changing and life-altering technology on the planet. We would have already solved world hunger and world poverty. I mean, especially we have the means. All the tools are available to us now. We're just not utilizing them.
But the thing is,
this has already happened once before. In the early 1940s, you had all these guys come out of Hungary, and they were all Hungarian Jews. And the world called them Martians because they spoke a different language. They looked different. They had these incredibly advanced mentalities. They were all geniuses. They were all very extremely curious people. People like John von Neumann, without which we wouldn't have the thermonuclear device. We wouldn't have the programmable computer. We wouldn't have computer languages. I mean, there'd be so many advanced mathematics contributions he made to physics. And this is just one of the 14 Martians, right? Now let's fast forward. The global population has exploded since then, right? So now, by my estimations, we should have about 45 alive of these individuals. I'm one of them on the planet today. So, like, for those of them like me, I need to seek out and find the rest of the Martians. Like me.
You're one of them. You're one of them.
I'm one of the extremely high intelligent. Yeah. I'm one of those people. Yeah.
45,
definitely.
And you're running for president?
That's right. Somebody has to. We need really intelligent people in these positions.
Well, you've got a campaign going right there. I mean, that might vote for you. We're kind of rooting for Adam Kinkesh over here, too. But, what were we talking about?
You said an explosion of intelligence.
All right.
Intelligence explosion.
Todd.
That's what I was trying to explain.
Todd.
That's what I was trying to explain to you.
Todd.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I hate to cut you off, but we are approaching the end of our roundtable event tonight. I want to thank everybody for joining. I do want to go to each person one more time so that they can go ahead and get on the soapbox. If any of you guys have anything to plug, feel free to do so. Otherwise, let's just go in the same order and give your final thoughts for this evening. Let's start with you, as usual, Alexandros.
Hey, so you guys are really awesome. Thanks for having me on the show again. Sorry I kind of showed up a little late, trying to get things together, and apparently there were some technical difficulties earlier. I do want to say that generally I believe in what you guys are up to, and I'm in it to win it, man. I'm here to collaborate and just make people's lives better and pass good information. We don't want to create a situation where there's a bunch of fear-mongering because we're not Alex Jones. I do want to promote peace and love and, let people know that there are alternatives, that we can all work together. We can make this work out. I feel very positive about the direction that we're capable of going as not just a nation or as a people, but as society, as humanity as a whole. And that's pretty much it, man.
I love that.
Anything to plug, Alexandros?
I've got the Second Renaissance going. If those want to get involved, are interested in getting involved, I run a global public think tank. It's called the Lighthouse at the End of the World. We have that hosted on Telegram right now, the app Telegram. And you can always contact me for more information, and I can help plug you in. Our big push right now is we are working on Venezuela, a real working solution, trying to get both boots on the ground here in the United States and abroad, as well as on the physical boots on the ground in Venezuela, so that we can get a coordinated effort going to try to help them fix their problems in their nation and get them some of this advanced technology and start that process of getting them off the ground and getting their people free. And we're starting to reform their economy so that they can live better, freer lives.
Very cool. Thank you, Alexandros. How about you, Dan?
Oh, yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. It's been a blast, and I just want to say that, to follow along with that, Alexandros, the fear is the worst thing ever. If you have to do anything at all, don't fear anything, and the one thing you can do is love, and love is the only answer, I feel like. So if anything, to combat anything in your life, you need to approach it with love and an open mind, and the only way to get through things is with a clear head, and you can't think clear when you're like afraid of everything. So what I do is try to figure out who we really are and what our purpose is, and I feel like the only way to do that is to remember where we are. So I have an Instagram and a YouTube and a BitChute called Earth is a Plane. It's one word, Earth is a plane, and it's pretty much just a site where we discuss the globe and flat Earth debate. It's a really simple concept, but there's a lot of controversy around it because there's people that say this and people that say that, and at the end of the day, it's all about what you can prove. So what I'm trying to do is prove where we are so we can actually remember who we are, because I feel like the biggest lie that's being told right now is who we are, and the only way to remember who we are and to end this massive control system is
exposing the lies.
Sorry?
Exposing the lies.
Yeah, exposing the lies and recognizing where we are has an effect on your mental clarity. And if you remember where you are, you can recognize who you are, and vice versa. And who you are is the most important thing to understand, because you're not an accident, and your life has value, whether or not you have a Rolex watch, a Bentley, a house. You're created for a purpose, and the only way to recognize that is to take a step back from everything and just look at it one step at a time with patience and love. And if you have an ounce of fear or doubt, it'll all crumble. And that's why I love the Bible so much. It's just like doubting Peter in the water. It's an amazing book filled with knowledge on a 3-tiered level. There's the exoteric story, the esoteric story underneath that, and then the truth lies at the heart of it, and you have to dissect each and every layer. And so that's something I would recommend everybody doing, is dissecting the threefold layer of the Bible whenever you get a chance. And that's what I have to say. Yeah.
We totally have to collaborate, man. This is awesome. I love you guys. This is really great. I'm so glad. I'm so honored that I could be on the show. Joe Rogan can eat his heart out. So
yeah, Joe Rogan sucks compared to this.
All right,
maybe
Todd,
we can get Joe Rogan to come on this show.
Yeah, exactly. Joe Rogan should be so lucky. Maybe we get Daniel on Joe Rogan's show.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. Let's work on it.
Like, come on, Joe, put Daniel on. You know he's cool.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. Joe Rogan, however, not interested. Todd.
No. If we get the chance, you got to go on there, Daniel.
No thanks. Todd, go ahead.
Maybe your
what's his name?
Listeners
Bravo. If you could get a hold of Eddie Bravo, and you could get a hold of Alex Jones, okay, yeah, you could totally get them to goad Joe Rogan into putting you on the podcast. Like, it would be dope as fuck.
Whoa, that would be
if anything,
so bad,
I'll get on the podcast with him. That would be awesome.
Eddie Bravo, I would definitely want to have on here.
That would
talk to that guy.
Yeah, get Eddie Bravo on.
Yeah, he's very interesting. I actually I've talked to him a little bit. I have his phone number. I've text messaged with him a little bit. He's a pretty cool guy. Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh my God, maybe you can go do DMT with Joe Rogan and Eddie Bravo.
Well, Eddie Bravo also owns a chain of jiu-jitsu schools, so he's a very, very busy man.
Well, aren't we all?
Todd, did you have any final thoughts for the evening?
I do have that final thought, and I'm going to bounce off of Dan about fear. Push through the fear, and you'll see the truth. What you're afraid to look at's where you'll find stuff. You know what I'm saying? In your own, whatever, scotoma. Have you ever heard the word scotoma? Something your mind can't see because you won't look at it for a reason. You're scared. Right. Push through the fear. And that brings me to the Blue Oyster Cult song. Come on, baby, don't fear the reaper. Because our whole life is a fear of sex and death. Males, humans, if you look from a biological, anthropological perspective.
Sex is life and death is death.
Yeah, that's the big one. You guys are so smart. Obviously, you're out there killing it.
Yeah, a lot of brain power on the line this evening.
Oh, yeah, please don't tune into Daniel's show once in a while because he's one of the smartest, funniest people I know. And I appreciate you having this round table. That was really cool. I got to be a part of it.
Thanks,
kind of
guys.
Like the moon landing, the first one.
Yeah, in fact, to segue on that, Todd, I felt that this went so excellent and the feedback has already been so great. I'm going to go ahead and make these roundtables an ongoing thing.
It was better than awesome. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
Get some hosts on. Have you ever watched boring TV news like Fox or CNN where they have four horrible people talk about the current events?
The View?
Totally.
That's what you should do here, but like it's in the Twilight Zone that makes it good, watchable.
Mystery Science Theater 3000 style?
Exactly. The weirdest shit you can, four people. They used to do that back in the day.
Well, it mixes things up, and it's a little bit more fun for me because instead of, sitting here firing off questions, it's just a little bit more interactive and dynamic and a little bit more fun. It's just kind of like a party.
I love it. So, yeah, I appreciate the show, Daniel, and I'll let you go. Man, you guys are some high-powered brains over there. Wait till I get a chance to chip away at you. You have your own shows, and you're running for president, right?
I'd love to be on the broadcast again. I'd love to be on with your compatriot that apparently is also running for president. That'd be awesome.
Adam Kokesh.
I would be totally for that.
He'll bring his shotgun.
I'm totally down for that, man. I'm serious.
We'll have a presidential debate.
Do a march. No, I'm teasing.
Presidential debate.
That'd be so cool.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah. So I'm going to jump off the line, and I appreciate the show, Daniel. Rock on, my man.
Rock on.
Thank you, guys.
Later.
All right, cool. Good night, Dan. Good night, Alexandros.
All right, have a good one, man. All right, bye.
Very cool. Very cool. First ever End of Days Radio roundtable. So much fun. Well, we went about 3 hours there. This was the first time we've ever done anything like this. A lot of fun because, like I said a few minutes ago, it's just so mind-numbingly boring doing the same thing every week, week after week. More interviews. I like interviews. I'm not going to stop doing interviews. I'm probably the best interviewer in the world, but I gotta mix it up here and there. I can't be bored. Because I know if I'm bored, you guys have got to be getting bored too. And that's not what End of Days Radio is. End of Days Radio is all about fascinating facts, interesting things, the supernatural, the paranormal. And it's about being entertained and having fun. Perhaps above all else. Because we can't prove a lot of this shit. But one thing that we can always do is we can always have a good time. And nothing is more real and nothing is more true than that. Whew. So I've got a few things I want to talk about myself. The show's gone on a while, but it's been a while since I've done a show. And I started this show kind of talking about how I've been feeling lately, things that have been going on in my life, and that snowstorm. I've never seen anything like it. I'm telling you that I live in the Seattle area. It rains a lot. We very, very rarely get snow here. We just don't get snow. It's not a part of our lives. We don't know how to deal with it. We don't adapt to it easily. But we just got slammed, man. We got slammed. We had the most snow I've ever seen around here would probably be like a little over a foot, maybe. A foot and a half at the most, years and years ago when I was a kid. We had over 2 feet. 2 feet of snow. I literally could not get out of my driveway to go to work. The power went out. I was freezing my ass off. So that was like 2 weeks in a row right there dealing with that damn snow. Obviously couldn't put on a show. And besides that, I've just been a little bit down. A little bit down and out. And that's not like me, I know that. I've been doing this show since like 2012, 2019, so like 6-7 years. And that's not like me. I've always been consistent. I've always put on a broadcast, but I've just been feeling a little bit down and out. And I don't think it's any coincidence because the show's never been this big. It's never had as many people paying attention. It's never had as much activity on social media. It's never made the impact that it's had. It's never attracted as much mainstream attention as it's been attracting lately. I've got a reputation out there, but it's like I'm in the middle of the hurricane, and as hard as I try to spread truth, and the harder that I do it, and the closer that I get to reaching everybody out there, the more this evil is tightening its grip on me, and it's coming up with just these very extravagant ways to just run me down and tire me out and stress me out. And it sucks, no doubt. But everything happens for a reason. The reason why I'm struggling right now is because I am being shaped like a diamond by the pressure. And for whatever reason, this is what I have to go through. And the reasons are not always overt. They're not always easy to figure out. Sometimes you just struggle in life because you are developing in a way that is beyond your comprehension. There's just more to it than you could ever possibly fathom. There are things going on with you that are so deep and so integral to your being that they literally cannot be put into words or grasped in the here and now. It's something that you might understand when you're older, when you have a bird's eye view of what's happening in the here and now. I believe that's what I'm going through. I'm just going through a period of changes, a period of getting to know myself, and a period of evolving spiritually. Whatever's happening to me right now is very spiritual. I do believe it has a demonic element, sure. Or whatever you want to call these things, archons, parasites, ghosties, goblins, aliens. I do feel like I'm under some kind of attack. Things have just been weird as fuck lately on multiple fronts. But I shall endure. I know that life is also a process of healing. We're all just shattered mirrors trying to come together again so that we can form a full image of who we are. It is very sad. It's very sad to know that life contains so much suffering. And there is more suffering in my future and in your future. But you can either crumble underneath it, or you can let it literally shape you into a goddamn diamond. And that's what I am before you, is a diamond. A diamond in the rough. Okay. So that's where I've been. I'm always changing so much. My beliefs, the way that I present this program, it's always changing. It's always evolving. Just from the very beginning, I know I've changed so much. I know you've changed so much. Who hasn't, right? And that's what life is all about. It's all about getting crushed under the pressure and either rising up or just giving in. Because some people do give in. Some people do, but that's not me. I've always come back from adversity. I've always come back, and I will come back this time stronger than ever. I do want to try to get outdoors a little bit more. That's one thing that I've been realizing is really kind of missing from my life. I spent a lot of time behind this mic. I spent a lot of time working, and what little time that's left, I'm usually in the studio making music. But I'm not getting enough sun. I'm not enjoying the outdoors. I'm not getting that natural air to breathe in. I'm not getting that earth vibe. I'm not connecting with Mother Nature. I'm too cut off. I'm too shut off, and I'm too cut off. I'm not getting enough sun. The sun is what it's all about. I mean, you need the sun as much as you need food. You got to get your vitamin D. We're like plants. We need solar energy in order to be at our healthiest. You can't be indoors all day. It doesn't work. I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. I just want to go out and set up a tent somewhere and start a fire. Maybe I'll read some of these books. Maybe I'll just listen to some podcasts. But I can't help but crave that. Some internal part of my being just wants to get out there and wants to connect with Mother Nature and just get away and be away from all this noise and radiation. Why not, right? So much is going on in the world, but honestly, right now, I'm just disconnected from all that jazz. I'm not interested in it. I don't care what Trump is doing. I just don't care. He's just another in a long series of puppets, and it's a bunch of political drama, a bunch of masquerading. There's nothing to see there. I just can't get into it. I'm not into politics. I don't care. I don't care what these celebrities are doing. That R. Kelly thing was funny. That was funny. I will say that. That was rather interesting. I also saw this Netflix documentary that everybody was talking about like a month ago. It was about the Fire Festival. I don't know how many of you out there have seen that. I do recommend it. It's really interesting. These dumbasses try to create this huge festival and overpromise, and a bunch of people got really stressed out because they got stuck on an island with no food or the tents they were promised or the beds they were promised. And these were a bunch of social media influencers and people like that. So if you want to be entertained for a couple hours and want to see a douchebag scammer just trick and rip off a bunch of people, then check out the Fire Festival documentary on Netflix. Netflix, which is pretty much the center of my life. No, I'm just kidding. Of course it's not. But once you get on that shit, the Netflix, the Amazon Prime, all that stuff. I don't even have the other ones like Hulu. Once you get on that crap, it's like you have too much that you can even get to. You have too many options, and you don't even know what to watch. You feel just spoiled, and then you have it in your pocket all the time. You just watch it whenever you want to. it's so nauseatingly, obnoxiously easy. What happened to having to stay up late on Saturday or Friday night to watch the shows that you like? What happened to that magic? Gathering around the TV so we could all watch TGIF on Friday nights, Family Matters, and Boy Meets World with Topanga. What happened to that? What happened to going to the mall, going to the bookstore, going to the record store, the CD store? I can't remember the last time I've gone to the mall. It's all online or it's Walmart. Literally. If they don't have it at Walmart, then I get it online. I don't have any reason to leave the house. Except to go to work and maybe go to the car wash. It's sad. I guess maybe I could take some yoga classes or something. Probably make some friends. Dragon Ball. A lot of you love when I talk about Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball is awesome, and Dragon Ball has made more money this year than ever. The Dragon Ball Super new series, it's a huge hit. Whoops. Great numbers there, great ratings. And they also had a movie, the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie. Did some record-setting numbers as well. So that whole franchise is making tons of money. They brought it back. Really interesting seeing an anime take off and be as popular as it is. It's kind of got its own cult fan following, kind of like Star Trek or Star Wars. It's beyond the anime world. It has its own world. That's how big it is. The Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super. I love Dragon Ball. As many of you know, I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan. I like anime in general, but especially Dragon Ball. It just really hits the spot with me. I remember this girl one time I met, and she had a Vegeta tattoo, and I was wearing a Vegeta shirt. She worked at one of those pot shops, and I would go in there and I'd flirt with her every time. Then one day she was just gone. If you're out there, Vegeta tattoo girl, hit me up, Daniel, endofdaysradio@gmail.com. I'm getting kind of sick of, this is going to sound very negative, especially to listeners to a show like this, but I guess I get kind of tired of some of these topics. I know that's going to sound seriously negative, but aliens especially. I've seen so much evidence that this is all disinformation. I've seen so much evidence that space and stuff like that might not even be how we're told. Yet there's always this ongoing sort of circuit of speakers and festivals and things like that surrounding aliens. And more, I don't know what it is, but I just hate that stuff. I hate it. I don't believe in aliens. I think that the idea of gray aliens is stupid. I think the idea of flying saucers is stupid. There's no aliens flying around. And this is coming from somebody that's seen a UFO up close. I've seen a UFO just 15 feet away from my face, and that was just one of the 3 to 5 times that I've actually seen UFOs. But that's the thing. Again, I saw a UFO. I didn't see an alien. I saw a UFO. I didn't see an alien. What are the implications of that statement? It means that a UFO could be anything. It could be human. It could be robotic. Unless you see the alien inside, how does that prove aliens? It doesn't prove aliens. It just proves an unidentified flying object. And many people, perhaps most people, have seen things, but very few have actually seen the alien inside, right? Few people have been abducted, and these abductions, they seem like maybe they could be dreams, or it might be the hypnotist kind of influencing them. A lot of times it could be my labs, humans, black budget, tricking people, alien disinformation stuff, mind control, or it could be demonic. A lot of it's probably demonic, obviously. But as far as like little green men wearing their little silver underwear coming from other planets to stick probes in our behinds, that stuff is so annoying. Or this reptilian stuff. I got so into that. Oh my god. I was so into the reptilian thing. Like, I was just such a nerd about it. Like many of you probably remember that. But I was so convinced. I did all this research, or I'd call it research, but my research consisted of reading websites about aliens and reading David Icke. That was my research. I'd call it research, like I was actually like going and studying some species or something, right? But after a while, you just don't buy into certain things anymore because you've had years and years to contemplate it, and you realize the evidence is just so scarce, and you hit a dead end at some point. There's no new information, and more you just come to the conclusion that, hey, this whole time this was nothing more than a theory. I don't really, in my heart of hearts, know that this is true. And let's face it, it's not. There's no reptilian aliens. Those things that are described, they just sound like demonic beings. They sound like hauntings. There's no... The Queen is not a shape-shifting reptilian hybrid. I mean, come on, that's stupid. She's just a person. She's gonna die probably rather soon. Those royals are definitely inbred, but they're not shape-shifting lizard people. And I've challenged them before. I've said, hey, so this reptilian race is supposed to be this warrior race, and they're supposed to be so badass, right? I put an open challenge out there. I challenge the champion of the reptilian race, and I've already done this tons of times on social media, and I think I've done it on this show, I don't remember, but I challenge the best fighter from the reptilian race, the species, to fight me in unarmed combat. It's for the pride of your people, of your species. And if not, you just don't exist. And I put that challenge out there, fully confident, because I know there's no reptilians. And it's just my way of proving that they don't actually exist, because they're supposed to be a warrior race, right? And they're supposed to be just so tough and big and strong. Yet, they seem to be very cowardly because none of their species will step forward. And you could say, oh, it's because they want to stay hidden. They don't want to be known. They need to stay behind the scenes and outsmart us. Okay, then why doesn't it just come and kill me and then just clean up the remains? Right? Right. See, reptilians are bullshit. They've always been bullshit. It's just wishful thinking. It's just like Dragon Ball or Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Star Trek or Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. It's just a subculture with its fan base, and people are into that shit. That's all it is. It's nothing to see there. It's not the truth. Now, are these people reporting experiences of interdimensional beings? Are they talking about something real? Yes, of course. But as far as the overall reptilian theory, the ancient alien stuff, the connection there, no, there's not really anything there. No proof there. Ancient aliens has never been proven, not even close. And don't fool yourself into thinking that it has. The evidence is very, very thin, if you even want to say that there's any evidence. And there's hardly any evidence of that or aliens in general. So the idea that there's evidence of the reptilian aliens is just ridiculous. You need more than some sort of claims people make and these speculative theories to know that something is true. Why would that be true? Why not something else, a different model? There's so many different models of reality. Think about it. All these different religions are just examples. Every individual has their own model of reality, has their own beliefs, what is true, what is not true, and there's billions and billions of people out there. So that goes to show you right there. I mean, is just one person right? I think that there's spiritual concepts that are true, just like math is true. But at the end of the day, reality is arbitrary. And that gets into the devil. So, as many of you know, I talk about the devil quite a bit, particularly one of his names, Lucifer. And people will say things like, oh, blah, 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 Lucifer was only in the Bible since this particular date, blah, 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 blah. But people that say stuff like that, they're missing the point. How does a skeptical guy like me, why would I go from being super into aliens and sort of having that sci-fi model to believing in the devil? And I can answer that question. The thing is that the devil gets you to play his game of, this is fake, that's fake. This is just really this is just really that. Such as these various names for the devil that originated in a way that makes it seem like the devil in general does not exist. But see, the devil goes by all these names. They all the different belief systems and all the different religions, their devil is the same, just like their God is the same. Like every religion that has a God, that's the same God, right? If it's true, it's true. If a spiritual concept is true, it's true. And there's a devil for every culture as well. So the devil, Lucifer, in that whole thing is just one of the names that he's known by. It's one of the ways that he wishes for people to see him. Regardless of how that came about, that is one of the faces of this being, this adversarial, demiurgic being that is somehow in control and rules this physical world. That's why I believe in a devil. You could break it down and say, there's no Satan, there's no Baphomet, there's no... You can do that if you want to. But is there an adversary? Is there a God? Is there an opposite to God? Or is there a false God? That's what you really have to ask yourself. And I think your heart of hearts will tell you that that is true. All of these spiritual ideas and concepts, they all came about at some point. Are you going to tell me that it's all for nothing, that there's not truth in what people have sat upon mountains and just contemplate it for lifetimes? Of course there's truth there, but we got to look at the big picture. We have to take it all into account, and we have to stay skeptical and scientific about it, because there is no science versus spirituality. They are the same thing. That's another deception, right? That you have to choose one or the other. That's what they call binary thinking. That's how this devil puts your mind in a box. If you can overcome the brainwashing, the manipulation, then you can see more and more truth. But the brainwashing and manipulation, it goes deeper than the Illuminati or shadow government think tanks. It goes deeper onto a spiritual plane. That's how deep the manipulation and the brainwashing really is. And that's where it really exists. So always try to look deeper. Even when you think you have it figured out, keep an open mind, because you don't, and I don't, and nobody does. But that does not mean that you can't be spiritual, that you can't have a belief in God or a belief in the devil or you can't value love over hate. You can succumb to your darkness, your insecurity, your bitterness, and you can let it overcome you and crush you. Or you can keep fighting, and you can keep fighting yourself, and you can keep fighting your fear, and you can keep setting goals for yourself, and you can keep attacking that and keep moving forward. Because at the end of the day, you just got to keep moving forward like a freight train. A lot of bad things are going to happen to you, and you can try to hold on. You can try to hold on, but really the most you can do is just enjoy it while you can, because it's going to be over before you know it. So enjoy every moment and value every moment of your lives. And I will see you next time here on End of Days. I don't know when I'll be back again. It could be next week. It could be 2 weeks. And I don't know in what shape or form. I could come back as a werewolf, or perhaps a reptilian, or a vampire. But I will be back, and sooner than you think. And when you go to sleep and you dream at night, I will be there with you. I'll see you on the astral plane. Good night, everybody.